Morning, glory, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Thank you for listening. There are really two major stories and one possibly major story this morning. The major story remains the virus. The second story is what's going on in the American marketplace. And the third story is the Joe Biden administration going to screw one of our leading allies in the Middle East, the United Arab Emirates, which has been so central along with Israel, to bringing in new stability to the region. Let me take them in order. It will take me two segments, the next segment and the third segment, to unravel for you what's going on in the markets. It is no reason to panic. It is no reason to actually even change your investment profile. It's no reason to make trades. It's no reason to subscribe to Reddit. It's no reason to do anything except watch and realize that it's the same story that we have seen again and again and again of day traders who believe they are geniuses and end up broke. But I'll explain that next segment. I want to start with the virus. As of this morning, there have been 101 million cases of coronavirus around the world. I had to get tested yesterday because I've got a cold, and I think a cold is a cold, but if you're going to go out and see people, and I'm going to go out and see people this weekend, socially distanced, etc., you have to be able to tell them, I've tested, and this will be my second negative test in 3 weeks, but I went and got tested yesterday, because there are 101 million cases and 2,186,000 people have died. Thank you very much, Chinese Communist Party. 2 million, when you get to Maoist ideology, that's barely a blink. Mao is, usually aims for 100 million when they want to kill people, but for Xi Jinping, 2 million is pretty good. Now, the good news is the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine, in fact, works against the mutations found in the United Kingdom and South Africa. From the Wall Street Journal, a Pfizer laboratory study found that the coronavirus mutations identified in the United Kingdom and South Africa had only small impacts on the effectiveness of antibodies generated by the company's COVID-19 virus vaccine. That means continue to get the vaccine. Get it as soon as you can, even if you have to stay online. As someone described it, remember when you were 18 and trying to get free tickets to the big hot concert in your neighborhood by calling into the rock and roll station? That's what you got to do with a COVID-19 vaccine appointment. You just got to hit refresh. You'll get it eventually. Tony Blair, who we all recall as being America's ally in its darkest day of 9/11, has called on Boris Johnson to lead the drive for a global vaccine passport. I happen to think this is a very good idea. I think we also ought to be able to get not only a passport, but some kind of a wristband that shows you're vaccinated so people don't freak out when you are sitting down at a table or driving around without a mask or in a grocery store without a mask. Now, obviously, there are problems with that system. People could pretend. But I am counting on the greater good. I know we pay a lot of attention to the crazy people who won't wear masks and yell at people who make them wear masks. But in fact, most Americans want to get along and are good people, and we'll get the vaccine as soon as possible. It is in the interest of your family, your parents, your spouse, your children, your relatives, your loved one, and the people you work with to get the vaccination as soon as you can. Now, there is an interesting side story. In the European Union, which the United Kingdom wisely left with Brexit last year, the EU is demanding that the UK give the EU the UK vaccines that the UK produced from AstraZeneca. Now, AstraZeneca has committed the first 100 million vials that they make to the United Kingdom, which is in fact the way it ought to operate because the United Kingdom paid for the AstraZeneca, just like the United States paid for the Pfizer vaccine and paid not only for the Moderna vaccine, but to develop it. A lot of morons are out there saying Pfizer wasn't involved in Operation Warp Speed. Yes, they were. They took a guaranteed purchase. They developed all that cost. They wanted the money on the other end. They did a cost-benefit analysis. They said, we think we can do this, so we want all the money. We don't want to share it, but we will will take your guaranteed buy. Moderna did both. They took the R&D money and they did the guaranteed buy. But in Oxford, they did a guaranteed buy and they put money into the Oxford study, the United Kingdom did. So they're keeping their 100 million. And EU is completely paralyzed because they don't have the capacity that free market states like the United Kingdom did. Even though the United Kingdom was part of the EU until recently, it was post-Brexit that this arose, and post-Brexit that Boris Johnson got the deal done with AstraZeneca. So the EU now wants the UK's vaccine. The Telegraph's headline, how the UK's vaccine gamble paid off, and the EU left itself without a leg to stand on. Back in March, the story reads, the University of Oxford was on the brink of signing a deal with the German drug giant Merck to research and develop a coronavirus vaccine. The UK government stepped in and helped steer Oxford towards a partnership with British-based AstraZeneca, taking a huge gamble to fund the research and development of a vaccine that might prove useless. Instead, the Oxford vaccine became only the second in the Western world to be approved for use, and both the UK and AstraZeneca are now reaping the benefits of the deal that was struck last April. I believe it was the third, but I won't haggle. I think Moderna and Pfizer beat them. So Brussels ordered up to 400 doses of AstraZeneca, and that's great. But AstraZeneca is making it for the UK first, which is how the game is played. So in the New York Times, the headline is EU vaccine shortages snowball into a crisis. Tomorrow our fridges will be empty, one European health official says as vaccines dwindle. Friends, this is the way the market works. If you put the bet down and you take the risk, you take the reward. This is going to matter in our second segment when I explain the GameStop madness. If you bet on the market, you're making a bet. It can go your way and go the other way. If you bet on Aaron Rodgers going for it on fourth down, you lost. If you bet on Tom Brady, you won. If you bet on AstraZeneca in the United Kingdom, you won. In the European Union, you should not have bullied the United Kingdom into leaving. But that's what you get. You got Brexit. Deal with it. You have to get in line, and by the way, the EU is not the worst place in the world. The worst place in the world are places like Brazil and Lebanon. Lebanon hospitals, according to the Financial Times, overwhelmed as country falls apart. At dawn on Sunday, the story reads, the moment that intensive care director Georges Jouveliakian was dreading finally arrived. His hospital in Lebanon ran out of breathing support devices called BiPAPs. It fell to his colleagues to choose which of two patients to treat with the one available machine. Now, that doesn't happen anywhere in the United States, thank goodness. But it is happening in the third world, and it's going to happen more because there are 101 million cases. And even if only 1% of them convert into the deadliest type that puts you in the EU, well, do the math. If you're a Steelers fan, 1.5 million cases in the EU. Now, the Washington Post has an opinion story by John Barry, who wrote The Great Influenza, which you remember a year ago, and indeed 13 months ago, I was screaming at you, read The Great Influenza. Read it. Understand what is going on. He's a distinguished scholar at Tulane University School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. He writes, the coronavirus is mutating. Will our vaccines keep up? Even the best influenza vaccine, he notes, produced every year is only 60% effective. Will ours keep up? Thus far, the answer is yes. But a lot depends on you getting your vaccine as soon as you can. So America, listen to me. Do not listen to the dummies. Do not listen to the scaremongers. Sign up, stick with it, get your vaccine as soon as possible. Your life, the lives of your friends and families depend upon it. Take it to the bank and come right back for more of the Hugh Hewitt Show.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The American experiment is founded upon a presupposition, a prior commitment to an ordered liberty, an established order. That means policies. It means a covenant. In our case, it means a constitution. As of right now, the U.S. Constitution is the longest surviving written constitution in human history. It's a remarkable document. All of that came to the fore in violent events that interrupted the joint session of Congress to count the votes of the Electoral College. At the end of the day, our constitutional order proved itself once again resilient. But that doesn't take away any of the tragedy and the horror of what took place. It was an enormous stress test on ordered liberty, a stress test brought on by the President of the United States.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
It's an opportunity for the right, the left, conservatives, liberals, all Americans to repudiate political violence and reaffirm, once again, our commitment to ordered liberty. It's the American way. I'm Albert Mohler.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Farrakhan lives in a mansion. Sharpton, we know he made a boatload of money because he was $5 million light in taxes, according to the New York Times at one point. For you to get $5 million light in taxes, you have to make a boatload of money. How is it that America is intrinsically, foundationally, endemically, structurally, institutionally racist, but these guys get a pass? But I'm the guy the man is going to come after when the man gets mad. Really? And again, according to Van Jones, this is all about a white lash because of a changing country, right?
I mean, we've talked about everything but race tonight. We've talked about income. We've talked about class. We've talked about region. We haven't talked about race. This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes. And Donald Trump has a responsibility tonight to come out and reassure people that he is going to be the president of all the people who he insulted and offended.
So it's a white lash on the part of insecure, scared white people because of a changing America that demographically is changing. Well, America has changed demographically from 2016 to 2020. So wouldn't Donald Trump therefore get a higher percentage of this paranoid white male vote instead of a smaller percentage? He's down 4 percentage points among white males compared to 2016. Is this thing on? I thought it was a white lash against white people afraid of the change in the country. The country is still changing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Department of Homeland Security, which has put out a national terrorism advisory system against what they are calling a new term, domestic violent extremists who have perceived grievances fueled by false narratives, including with regards to the inauguration. How worried are you that we are seeing the federal government turn against potentially 74 million Americans who voted for conservatism?
Welcome back, America. I am amazed by the same thing I read during the break. The desire to get vaccinated is increasing among all groups, according to WebMD. But Republicans and rural residents remain the most reluctant. Now, this is based on a survey of more than 1,500 adults taken January 11th to 18th in the COVID-19 vaccine monitor. It found that 47% of Americans want to get vaccinated as soon as they can or have already been vaccinated, much higher than 34% who said they wanted the vaccine in December. Another 31% say they want to wait till it has been available to see if it's working for other people. This is nuts. All right? Absolutely, positively crazy. No one will make you get the vaccine. It's not going to be a requirement of go to jail. But you're endangering yourself, your family, your loved ones, your workers, and the world if you don't. Now, it's not going to be quick. Cut number 19, Andy Slavitt of President Biden's COVID Task Force 19.
Right now, I want to level with the public that we are facing two constraining factors. The first is getting enough supply quickly enough. And the second is the ability to administer the vaccines quickly once they're produced and sent out to the sites. We are taking action to increase supply and increase capacity. But even so, it will be months before everyone who wants a vaccine will be able to get one. Any stockpile that may have existed previously no longer exists. Our practice is to maintain a rolling inventory of 2 to 3 days of supply that we can use to supplement any shortfalls in production and to ensure that we are making deliveries as committed. But we are passing doses directly along to states very much in real time as they order them. Pfizer and Moderna are committed to delivering a total of 200 million doses by the end of March, with much of it coming at the end of the quarter. So it will accelerate. Pfizer yesterday announced that they think they can deliver 120 million doses this quarter. And as you heard from the president yesterday, the United States plans to purchase an additional 200 million doses from Moderna and Pfizer this year, which will be sufficient to vaccinate every American over the age of 16. And we expect those doses this summer.
All right, now let me give you the update. 47 million doses have already been developed. 24.5 million have been administered. 20 million people, 20,687,970 people have received at least one dose. And so the rollout is progressing and it's accelerating. But we can't have people say, I'll wait and see if it works. You'll die. Some of you will die. Not all of you, not even close to all of you. 99% of you won't die, but you'll get sick. The trouble is you make other people sick. This isn't it's all about me decision. This is all about the community. I actually believe, I would leave it to Al Mohler and Archbishop Chaput, my theologians, to decide this. But I think you have a moral duty to get vaccinated in the middle of a pandemic. I think you do. I think you, as a Christian, I believe you have a moral duty to get vaccinated. 1-800-520-1234. Absolutely a moral duty to get vaccinated. One more cut from Andy Slavitt about what's ahead, cut number 20.
Now let me take you through what we're doing to increase the supply. So the president invoked the Defense Production Act last week as a big first step to increase the supply of vaccines. We're going to make sure that we get 6 doses out of Pfizer's vials everywhere in America, because that's the potential. And we're going to do that by acquiring something called low dead space syringes. I'm sure everybody knows what low dead space syringes are. I now do. And yesterday, we announced a 16% increase in supply flowing to states every week for the next 3 weeks to a minimum of 10 million doses per week. That's good news.
That is good news. And here, this is not political. They haven't created a crisis to solve it. Some of the rhetoric at the beginning was a little bit overblown, but right now they're just ramping up supply like President Trump was doing, like anyone would do. Your job is to get it as soon as you can. Now, when I come back, what is going on with the market? 1-800-520-1234. Connection to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I'm going to post this segment at my YouTube channel, and subscribers will get it automatically, and I hope you will subscribe. I always put up the important stuff that I want you to listen to if you haven't been able to hear the whole show at my YouTube channel. So subscribe to make sure you get the most important stuff. Now, this is brought to you, it's a market segment. So it's brought to you by Birch Gold. I believe in owning between 10 and 25% of your assets in precious metals. And Birch Gold will help you do that. If you just text my name, Hugh, to 474747, or you visit the website hughgold.com, no obligation. They will show you how to take 10 to 25% of your retirement and put it into precious metals, or they will help you buy gold. Now, I personally buy gold and invest my retirement so that the gold is runaway money, and go get it if you need it, and it just sits there. Today, gold is trading at $1,840 an ounce. It's been as low as $1,400 this year. It's been over $2,000 this year. If inflation comes, it will come quickly, and it will come with devastating effect, and therefore I keep a little position in gold, and I recommend everybody do so. So get some information from Birch Gold at hughgold.com. Now, the real economic news of the day yesterday was that Apple posted a record profit as its sales in Greater China increased by 57%, which is a staggering number. Net profits rose 29 cents per share to $28.8 billion. Earnings per share jumped 35% to $1.68. They blew away all the forecasts, and Apple went down. Huh? I'll explain that in a moment. Facebook yesterday posted its earnings. Facebook had a great fourth quarter. On both the top and bottom line, they beat everyone's expectations. Top line meaning revenues, bottom line meaning profit. They just killed it. Per share earnings of $3.25 or $3.22 on revenue of $26.43 billion. That was the prediction. They came in at $3.88 and $28. They were supposed to make $3.22 per share of revenue. They made $3.88 per share. They were supposed to total $26.43 billion in revenue. They, in fact, totaled $28 billion. The company reported daily active users of 1.84 billion, with a B, people, 2.8 billion monthly users, like my radio show. Maybe I don't reach that many people. So Facebook had a great quarter. Their stock went down. Boeing had a terrible quarter, a record annual loss. Just terrible. They had two fatal accidents they're paying off. The 777X is late. Bad quarter. Its stock went down. Now, those are counterintuitive, right? No, because investors look forward. What have you done for me lately? And what are you going to do for me next quarter are very different questions. What have you done for me lately is what I just told you. Two companies did great and one company did bad. But if Boeing tells the market, but we're going to do great next quarter, which they didn't do, and Facebook tells the market, I see some headwinds, which Mark Zuckerberg did, ooh, investors are forward looking. They are not backward looking. A sober Fed yesterday said there's no intention of withdrawing support from the struggling U.S. economy. That's the overarching, that's all real economic news. That's news on which investors make their decisions. Investors who are in for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40, or as we increase our lifespans 50 or 60 years, they look at real economic news. They are not day traders. They are not gamblers. Now, the people who are investing in GameStop and AMC and BlackBerry are no different from the people who are playing craps in Las Vegas. And by the way, that's perfectly legal. You can gamble with stocks. It's stupid, but it's legal. Dwayne and I were in Las Vegas for the third debate of the 2016 cycle. And as we walked out...
Split greens, baby.
Split green. I always make one bet. It's a dumb bet. It's the only bet I know how to make. And I'm not a gambler.
Split greens.
Whenever I come in, I'll get $20 or $50.
40.
$40, is that what it was?
I remember this. I love this story.
And so you tell it. What did I do?
So we show up to the roulette table, and Hugh gets $40 in chips, and he splits greens. He puts half on 0 and half on 00.
Actually, I put all of it on the line between it, which is the same thing.
Same thing, splitting greens. And so they spin the wheel. Darned if it doesn't come up 00. And
what did I do?
He goes, I won! And he picks up his chips, and he starts to walk away, leaving the original 40 still splitting greens. I said, Hugh, don't you normally tip the... Oh, yeah. And he picks up the original 40, and he goes and he looks at the casino worker, and he says, oh, this is for you. And he hustles his tail over to the cashier
because I will pick up the story now. Because hogs get slaughtered. All right? So I won. I don't even know what the payoff is. And by the way, what did I do with the money, Generalissimo?
To be fair, you said, and I will quote you, you said, when I win, we all win, and Adam got a chunk, and I got a chunk.
There you go. Ben, you weren't working here yet, and Harley, you should wait until I go to Las Vegas again. Because that's just stupid blind luck, and it's probably not even a good bet.
And if the fortunes, grace you and you win, you take your money and you get the heck out of there.
You run for the exit.
Get out of there.
Run. So now we've got a bunch of kids. They're mostly kids, but some are older, who have decided they're going to beat the professionals. So I'm about to read you headlines. Wall Street Journal. GameStop mania reveals power shift on Wall Street, and the pros are reeling. New York Times. Dumb money is on GameStop, and it's beating Wall Street at its own game. Washington Post. GameStop, AMC shares surge after Reddit users lead chaotic revolt against big Wall Street funds. Wall Street Journal again. GameStop is a bubble in its purest form. From the Financial Times of London. Occupy Wall Street spirit returns as trader upset the elites. And from the Financial Times, hedge funds retreat in the face of day trader onslaught. So what is going on? I will tell you what is going on. What is going on is that dumb luck has descended on a bunch of kids who have gotten together and decided they're going to pour their money into whatever money they borrowed from mom and dad, or that they made at Starbucks, or that they got cutting lawns. And they're going to pour it into GameStop. Now, the last time I was in a GameStop, my youngest was in junior high. He is about to turn 30. There was a GameStop in Southern California, and I had to go there every weekend to rent a game. It was GameStop is the video game, is the Blockbuster of gamers. All right, so they exist, and they got tumbleweeds in them. They're falling apart. When was the last time you were ever in a GameStop, Dwayne? Never, probably. You ever been in a GameStop?
Yeah, like maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah, they're dead. Deader than dead. When was the last time?
They are the video game equivalent of Blockbuster.
Yeah. So and the market looks forward and they say, oh, that's a dying industry like Blockbuster. The power dynamics, writes the Wall Street Journal, are shifting on Wall Street. Individual investors are winning big, at least for now, and relishing it. An eye-popping rally in shares of company that were once left for dead, including GameStop, AMC Entertainment, and BlackBerry, has upended the natural order between hedge fund investors, rich guys and smart guys and gals, and those trying their hand at trading from their sofas, or their laundry rooms, or their Safeway. And war has broken out between professionals who are losing billions and the individual investors who are jeering at them on social media. Now, if you follow Hugh Hewitt on Twitter, you can go over to my Twitter profile right now, and at the second tweet, what's happening with Wall Street and Reddit in one thread. And I posted the picture of a Reddit thread. It's got a picture of a Terminator coming for a little girl who's crying. Reddit, after realizing that united, we can manipulate the stock market. Capitalism is dead. Long live the power of memes. So not only do you combine the get-rich-quick disease that affects a lot of day traders, you combine the anti-capitalism ennui of people whose skill sets have not equipped them for this marketplace, and they have decided to go after the short sellers. That means people who are betting on companies going down, and crush them. And crush them they have done. And that is happening because people are buying GameStop and AMC and BlackBerry, and those shares are going off the charts, crushing the people who bet they were going to go down. Hugh Hewitt's financial advice is rare and infrequently given. Buy Amazon, it's the only stock I own. Diversify, including precious metals, and do not play the market because it is like roulette. And if you hit double greens, walk away because this is a bubble and you cannot beat them, the people who do this for a living. And you are not investing, you are gambling. And you are not taking on capitalism, you are gambling. And you might dress up what you are doing as a war against the big suits, but you are just gambling. And if you gamble, you will lose. As I pointed out to my boys when they were 14 and I took each of them to Las Vegas for the purpose of showing them everything they should not do. They were too young to be on the floor. We stood on a balcony. And I said, look at all those people. You know what they're doing? What? They're losing money. I said, look at this city as we were on the boulevard. Do you know what they make here? Nothing. They make nothing in Las Vegas. Zero, zip, nada. It is built on people who go there and willingly leave their money. That is now what is happening with GameStop, AMC, and BlackBerry. And it might go on for another week. It's the old game of walking around until the music stops and then you don't have a chair. If you're the last person to buy GameStop, you're screwed, buddy, gal. Get out now. It's a sucker's game. All right. That's been brought to you by Birch Gold. Gold you have at the end of the day, and it's still worth $18.40 an ounce, not GameStop. And Relief Factor, which is what I take right now. I think I'm cleared to go out and exercise again. I had a headache to kill yesterday, and the fetching Mrs. Hewitt said, that's because of this massive storm, and I didn't believe her, but then it's gone this morning, so now I have to believe her. Sinus headache. I carry curcumin, resveratrol, omega, and my lukewarm coffee. Breakfast for Hugh Hewitt every morning. Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, and omega are the 4 supplements in ReliefFactor.com, and it's my breakfast every morning at this hour. Lukewarm coffee and those 4 supplements get me ready for the day. And they ought to get you ready for the day. Join the tens of thousands of people who take it every day and who write me and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Up next from Israel, Michael Oren. Why has Israel got so many people vaccinated and we don't? We'll find out when we return. Stay tuned.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
You were the head of the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which is over the Voice of America, doing your job in the Trump administration. Voice of America put out a video that you just showed me, asking people basically to vote for Joe Biden, asking Muslims to vote for Joe Biden. How is it possible that that happened during the Trump administration? Because it is the most partisan thing I've ever seen.
The Voice of America and the others are required by law to be objective, balanced, and comprehensive. So we were shocked to find the video you referred to that was produced by the Urdu service, which is supposed to target Pakistan. And it was, in fact, just a really repackaged Biden ad, appealing to voters in Michigan, not so much Pakistan, to swing the vote for Biden. We, in fact, found out about it because of a whistleblower leak. And as soon as we found out about it, it had been up for an entire week, really. We asked the Urdu service to take it down, which they did. Then we did something sort of unique in VOA and USAGM history. We wanted to hold accountable those people responsible for breaking the law. And we had...
Hold accountable?
Yes, right. Shocking.
What do you think this is, 1975? Come on, man.
Well,
hey,
that's right.
On, man.
So we initiated, we got the HR department and our internal people to do an investigation. And some of the people were disciplined. Some were fired. Some had things written into their files. Some were put on leave, all the way up. But oddly enough, you will not be surprised, Eric, they claim that was a violation of their rights.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who deserves to be ousted, and you can sign the petition to oust him. It is up at DennisPrager.com. Where would people find it? The petition to oust Newsom. Cited on the show. So listen to this. He instituted a indoor dining ban, according to this graph here. It starts at the middle of November. Cases zoomed up in California. The graph is like the side, not even of a ski slope. It's almost a perpendicular line. It's almost 90 degrees. That is how intense the increase in California positive cases, and ICU filled by positive cases. All right. Then at the height, right after Joe Biden becomes president, Newsom cancels the stay-at-home order.
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt, joined from Israel by Dr. Michael Oren, former Israeli ambassador to the United States, former deputy minister in the Israeli government. Good morning, Dr. Michael Oren. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm good. Hugh, good to be with you. Always.
I have two questions for you. The first has to do with the Abraham Accords. As an adjunct to those accords, the United States agreed to sell 50 F-35 fighters to the United Arab Emirates. The Biden administration in its first week has put that and another arms sale to Saudi Arabia under review. I believe this is detrimental to the accords and to the United States and the Middle East. What do you think?
I think that I personally, as someone who was actually involved in the supply and acquisition of the F-35 by Israel, I was undisturbed by the possibility of those planes being sold to the United Arab Emirates. And I think insofar as those planes are important for maintaining our peace with the UAE, that sale should go through. I think the United States has a historic commitment to maintain Israel's qualitative military edge. Actually, the president has to report to Congress twice a year how that commitment is being upheld, and I'm convinced that the United States and the Congress will ensure it will be held in the face of the sales to these airplanes to the UAE. I think it's a problem. I think it's a problem about American credibility. And I think as far as the UAE and other Arab states are now on the same side with Israel confronting the Iranian strategic threat, I think it's regrettable.
Can you expand on what I also believe? It's a major problem for American credibility if this deal is not rapidly consummated pursuant to the contracts that were signed by President Trump's team.
Well, that's one factor, certainly. Another factor is going to cost the United States tens of thousands of jobs. Go talk to the people in Fort Worth, Dallas, what it will mean for them, the cancellation of these contracts. So that's where those planes are made.
Okay. I just think it's a disaster, and I hope they walk it back. I expected more of Jake Sullivan than this. Now I want to turn to a story in the Times of Israel. Netanyahu re-election hopes jeopardized by ultra-Orthodox unrest. Now, I covered earlier in the show that a poll showing that rural Americans and Republicans are less inclined to get the vaccine. I think that's nuts, and I have said so. It's actually immoral not to get the vaccine. What is the problem among the ultra-Orthodox?
Well, first of all, I want to say today I'm marking the second week after my second vaccine. So
there you go.
I'm officially immune it today. So you're asking the right guy. It has to do with power. The ultra-Orthodox reject in name the secular power of the state of Israel. They claim that only God could redeem the Jewish people, and that the Zionist movement is actually arrogating an exclusive right of God by redeeming the Jewish people through the state of Israel. So they're going to, since the vaccine comes from the state, it is actually a type of apostasy, right? This type of heresy, this vaccine. But there's another hallowed Jewish concept that says you can violate almost any commandment in the Bible in order to save a human life. And the rabbis, in my view, are violating that sacred commandment by instructing or indicating to their followers that they shouldn't get the vaccine. This is coming to a head, and it's having profound political ramifications, I think, as you were intimating, Hugh, is that insofar as Netanyahu is heavily dependent on the ultra-Orthodox party to form his coalition, and there's just growing resentment against the fact that the ultra-Orthodox are not isolating, they're not wearing masks, they're not closing institutions. They have 10 times the infection rate of the rest of the country. 60% of the people that are hospitalized are also Orthodox, and they're forcing a close down on the entire economy of the state of Israel, causing immense suffering. I'm speaking also of my own kids I have grandkids, and they're home for weeks and weeks and weeks with these grandkids. It's just terrible because of the ultra-Orthodox.
I've already made an argument this morning, Michael, that if I talk to my Catholic theologian, Archbishop Chaput, or my Protestant theologian, Dr. Albert Mohler, I think they would agree with me that there is a moral imperative that people get the vaccine. Is there not a chief rabbi who can speak to this issue? Because it is so obviously detrimental to the country and to individuals, whether or not one believes the country is improvidently refounded or not. It's still destructive of human life.
And the chief rabbi, both the Ashkenazi, the Western chief rabbi, and the Sephardic chief rabbi, have come out against those who are against the vaccine, calling on all Israelis to get the vaccine. But unlike in Catholicism, we don't have that hierarchy. We don't have a pope, and so every rabbi is pulling in his own direction. Great for creativity, not good for discipline, and it's become a big problem. And if you continue what I was saying before, the polls now show that a significant majority of Israelis are now against including the ultra-Orthodox in any coalition, BBs or otherwise.
Wow, that is a big change because they have been in every coalition as far as I can recall, correct?
Except for one, 2013, 2015, 18 months, but very short-lived. But I've always said to you week after week that I think Netanyahu is going to pull this off. He's going to win again because of his successful handling of the coronavirus, ultimately, and the vaccines, making Israel the first country on earth to be completely vaccinated.
Quick question. Will the ultra-Orthodox understand the political benefit of getting vaccinated, if not the moral imperative?
Doubt it. I think that what's going to trump, and I know no pun intended, what's going to trump is what their rabbis say.
What their rabbis say. Wow. Interesting glimpse of life inside of Israel, as always, from Dr. Michael Oren. Thank you, Michael. Come right back, America. Hour number 2 of the Hugh Hewitt Show, straight ahead.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Here's a question that she should have circled back on. Let's go to cut 63.
Is the White House concerned about the stock market activity we're seeing around GameStop? And have there been any conversations with the SEC about how to proceed?
Well, I'm also happy to repeat that we have the first female Treasury Secretary and a team that's surrounding her, and often questions about market we'll send to them. But our team is, of course, our economic team, including Secretary Yellen and others, are monitoring the situation. It's a good reminder, though, that the stock market isn't the only measure of the health of our economy. It doesn't reflect how working and middle class families are doing.
Okay, so I'm going to say something, and I don't want this to be misunderstood, but Isabel can help clarify it for me. It's completely and totally irrelevant to the question whether or not Janet Yellen is a woman. And by the way, I thought you don't believe in women or men.
Right. I find it so ironic. The left is so excited. We have our first female vice president, which is awesome to see as a woman in politics. That's an incredible accomplishment. But again, you don't recognize that there even are two genders or that gender is anything but a social construct. So I fail to see how that's relevant from their political side of things. But, you know, we spent the first hour going into a deep dive on insider trading, on the situation with GameStop. The public information is available. It's out there. So I find it interesting that the comms team this morning didn't brief the White House press secretary. But no fear, everyone. We have our first female Treasury secretary.
Irrelevant.
Nobody freak out.
Is the person qualified? I couldn't care less. What does that have to do with anything? What that is a crudgel.
Yes.
What that is Jen not knowing how to answer a question and say, hey, take it easy. You know we have a woman in that position. That's what that is. Like, stop asking me tough questions.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Night on Sean Hannity's show, Senator Lindsey Graham asserted that this is all driven by fear on the part of the Democrats. I agree, but I would have to add a footnote to what Senator Graham said last night to Sean on Fox News.
Why are they doing this? They're afraid. I think Democratic senators are afraid of the left wing of their party, that if they don't give some credibility to this trial that started in the House, they're in trouble. And Joe Biden's been a huge disappointment thus far, not only on policy, but on the idea that I'm going to bring the country together. How easy would it be, Sean, for Joe Biden to say it is bad to impeach a president after they leave office? Enough already with Donald Trump. Let's look forward. So it tells you a lot about Biden's ability and desire to bring us together by the fact that he's sitting on the sidelines, and his only comment has been, I don't think they have the votes.
I don't disagree with that, but I would add one footnote. Again, I would add this. There's fear, all right. They don't know what to do with Donald Trump and tens of millions of supporters who are not going anywhere. They want us to go away. They want to wish us away. They want to will us away. They want to censor us away. They want to shut us down.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
What I say? You said I call MSNBC names. I call them MSNBC hee-haw because I think a lot of their hosts are pretty silly. But you think that's really cruel and mean and nasty? It's the same thing as calling somebody a fascist or Hitler or a dictator or a Nazi, the way Donald Trump often is referred to, Mark? Is that the same?
Since his actions are that way, probably yes.
What has Donald Trump done that, in your view, makes him a Nazi or a fascist, Mark, please?
Oh, okay, well.
We don't need a lot. He's been around 4 years. Just give me one example of what makes you believe that Donald Trump is a fascist, or that when people say that, that's an accurate term.
Hey, I know you're going to disagree, but when David Duke.
Mm-hmm.
It took him months.
You can't even remember his name. That's fascinating, Mark. The reason you can't remember his name is because the only time he's relevant is when somebody's running for election. No one's mentioned David Duke since Joe Biden got elected. The only time he's brought up is when a Republican's running for election, and then the Democrats compare him or her to David Duke. You can't even think of his name. I think it's pretty telling.
And what about the Proud Boys?
He's the lead. Do you know any Proud Boys, Mark? You ever seen one? You know who they are? Where they are? Talk to me.
No, but I know what they
I don't either. Have you ever seen a white Mark? Have you ever seen a white supremacist?
Well, fortunately, I don't associate with those people.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't, Mark, because you're a decent guy, and most people in America are decent and don't associate with people like that. That's why it's so ridiculous that Donald Trump is asked to denounce somebody that nobody associates with, Mark. It's foolish. That's why I'm angry at the left. Thanks for calling, though, Mark. I appreciate it. I'm Larry Elder.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
As this avowed Bernie supporter shot Steve Scalise, nearly killing him, and shot one of our coaches and 2 or 3 of our staff, he screamed, "This is for health care." Ask me or anyone if that's incitement.
That man's name was James Hodgkinson, who tried to murder Rand Paul, Steve Scalise, and everybody on that baseball diamond. That was Senator Paul reacting to the attempt to try in the Senate Donald Trump after he left office. We are back with Dinesh D'Souza. This is a rebuilding the right. Dinesh, you mentioned this maybe 20 minutes ago, but let's reiterate, let's be clear about it. Of the two political parties in America today, one of them has normalized violence in the last 4 years, and it isn't the GOP, is it?
That's absolutely true. Even if you look at Trump's speech, plain speech, we got to rise up, we got to fight. This is political standard rhetoric. This is not incitement. Now, I hear that the House managers are trying to use the reaction of people to the speech to sort of almost imply what was in the speech. But let's say I were to give a speech and I were to say, you don't have enough money, you need to get more, you need to build up your wealth, and someone goes out and robs a bank. Now, I didn't incite them. I didn't tell them to rob a bank. They might have interpreted my words that way, but that's not a normal interpretation of what I said. So the bottom line of it is there's been no incitement from Trump, and then you compare that to, Kamala Harris, where she's talking about the rioters, and she basically goes, you know what? They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. They're going to continue after the election. And what she means is they're going to continue looting and burning and terrorizing people. And she goes, and they shouldn't stop. And that's incitement right there if you're looking for it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
His name is Michael Pack. He's been on this program before because he was behind what can only be described as a spectacular documentary film about Clarence Thomas. It was on PBS, which is as good as the film. In other words, as good as the film is, the fact that it was on PBS is perhaps, frankly, better than the film. It's outstanding that it was able to be aired on PBS. Michael Pack, welcome.
Thank you very much, Eric. And let me remind your viewers and listeners, they can still see it. It's streaming. It's on Amazon and iTunes and many other platforms. And it is a great film. I agree with you, Eric.
Would you drop the title for us, please?
It's called Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words.
Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. It's Hugh Hewitt. Look, I want to go back to this WebMD poll, which I think is probably the most important story of the day. There are a lot of important stories of the day. I ran through them in the rundown, including the idiocy of buying GameStop. And there's a disturbing article in the New York Times on Iran angles for advantage on Biden's priority list. We'll come back to that. It is crazy, crazy, crazy for Joe Biden to try and resurrect the JCPOA. There is a stable alliance between Israel and Sunni nations that now includes Sudan, Morocco, Bahrain, and UAE. There have been meetings between Netanyahu and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Additional Sunni states will be joining in, Indonesia and Mauritania, I believe, to the Abraham Accords. There's simply no reason to deal in Iran, which is collapsing and which is continuing to export terror around the world. We'll come back to that. I got to deal with this vaccine story. Now, a new poll came out yesterday. Nearly half of all Americans, this is from Health Day reporting, Health Day. Nearly half of all Americans want to get the COVID-19 vaccine as soon as they can. A new poll suggests, great, half should be 90%, 95%, but half, that's a start. Perhaps more important, the percentage is even higher among those who know someone who has already been vaccinated. I know lots of people have been vaccinated, but I have an official toxicologist of the Hugh Hewitt Show, member of the family, PhD, who brought half dozen drugs to market through a 45-year career, who I consult with all the time. He recommends either of them as the first one you can get, Moderna or Pfizer, take them. efficacious. They will protect you. It's a deadly disease. Perhaps more important than any message is the impact of seeing a neighbor, friend, or family member get their shots without any adverse effects, said Drew Altman, president and CEO of the Kaiser Family Foundation, which conducted the poll. People do find messages that promote the vaccine's effectiveness and promise a return to normalcy convincing, but they are discouraged when they hear about allergic reactions and side effects. You know, those are so rare. So rare. The only person I've talked to who had a little soreness under their arm for 2 days. That's a side effect. It ought not to deride. Everyone else I know just fine, 100%. The desire to get vaccinated is increasing among all groups, but Republicans and rural residents remain the most reluctant. Now that's the takeaway. It's not, by the way, necessarily what I read further down in the poll. 31% say they want to wait and see until it has been available a while to see how it's working. 20% are more reluctant to get vaccinated, including 7% who will only get vaccinated if required to do so for work, school, or other activities, and 13% who say they will definitely not get vaccinated. I do not understand the 13%. Among white respondents, 53% are more likely to want the vaccine than black respondents, 35%, and Hispanic respondents, 42%. That's why I do not understand the Republican rural people, but I'll let other people break this down. My general message, you need to get online and in line as soon as you can to get the vaccine. The country needs it. All right? 1-800-520-1234. I will try and talk with people who don't want to get it and be polite. I'm not going to be rude to anyone. I will not let you spread misinformation. I'm telling you beforehand. And if I say, Adam, done, he'll dump out. But there is no reason not to get this. And urban myths about I heard from a guy who heard from a guy that somebody died, that's what it is, a myth. All right? You have more chance of getting hit by a satellite falling from the sky than of dying from an adverse reaction to the COVID-19 vaccine. Quote, many people clearly feel like they need more information before they will get in line for a vaccine, and what they hear, positive or negative, true or false, may influence what they ultimately do, said Molly Ann Brody, the KFF, that's the Kaiser Family Foundation, Executive Vice President. Many are concerned about potential side effects and adverse reaction, particularly Black and Hispanic adults, presenting both a challenge and an opportunity for outreach and education efforts. Look, friends, it works. You can go back to life. We can get back to the movies. We can reopen the economy. We can stop printing money like it's going out of style. Get the vaccine. David in Columbus, you've been patient. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mr. Hewitt. I appreciate you taking the call. So I guess I just want, a viewpoint or opinion. So obviously there's a 99.7% survival rate with getting COVID itself. We've kind of been, preaching that.
I don't believe that's correct. But go ahead. I don't know what the survival rate is. I believe it's not that high, but go ahead.
Well, okay. I just through the whole last year, it was a very high number. Let's say that up close to there. I personally know of an individual who took the vaccine, had a very serious reaction to it. Didn't die, but it was very severe. And
let me drop in, by the way, a Facebook meme. Yeah. I'm doing a fact check on USA Today. A Facebook meme states COVID-19 has a 98.54% survival rate and characterizes it positive versus panic. It's an argument that echoes what Dr. Ben Carson originally said, and what that 1% mortality means is that 1% of people, it might be as low as that, it might be higher than that, will die from it. Other people will have serious long-term impacts on their health. So the mortality rate is not, in fact, an indicator of whether or not you want it. Moreover, it could go up with variations as they arise. And we could have a mutation unless we stop it dead in its tracks that could be far more devastating, like the pandemic of 1918. Go ahead, David. Okay. So you know one person, how many people do you know that didn't have any impact at all when they got it?
As far as the vaccine?
Yeah.
I mean, I've only known a handful, I would say a dozen people or so who, I personally know who have actually, taken the vaccine, versus the ones that have not, that kind of a thing. So,
and one of them had a bad reaction.
Yes, yeah.
And what was the nature of the bad reaction?
It was, it wasn't just a soreness. It was an actual, breathing issue. And it was a situation where it took their heart rate down very low.
Did they go to the hospital?
Yes.
Did they stay overnight?
Yeah, well, yes, just obviously for observation and for treatment. Once they were stabilized in that.
Are they home? Are they home?
Not yet. Just one. They should be released to go within the next day or so. So it was it's been about a 3-4 day process, and been watching that. So from that standpoint, that's good. I guess where I'm at with it is, as a question would be, okay, so there are underlying situations for both scenarios. There's obviously the mobilities for getting COVID, which would increase your chances of severe and or death from getting COVID. There also, though, are those situations where when taking the vaccine, known or possibly unknown reaction could occur from that. In essence, it is a little bit, to me, I guess, should at least, consider that. I guess my only point in saying, I guess, with what I wanted to be was I can't just say blanketly that, well, just because you say you don't want to get it, you're an idiot. Or
I didn't say you're an idiot. I think you are ill-informed.
I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I think people who don't want to get it are poorly informed, because one of the and I appreciate the call, David. Thank you. One of the factors you do not factor in is the consequence of not getting it, but getting COVID, even when it does not impact you, because that is a consequence of not getting vaccinated, is that you get the disease and you pass it to other people who will in fact die or be compromised. So to become a vector is a consequence. Now, if you're only in it for yourself and you say, well, I have a 99% chance of surviving, not only is that wrong because of long-term consequences we don't know about, but it's incredibly selfish. And if you allow, I know a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of people who have been seriously injured in a car accident, and I know some people who have died, unfortunately, in car accidents. And I drive every day because I see around me the evidence that people drive every day. Let me tell you, it is more dangerous to be on the 405 today, and there isn't much traffic, than it is to get a COVID-19 virus. And it is far more efficacious for you, your family, your colleagues, and the world to go and get the vaccine. I'll be right back. More of your calls on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
His name is Michael Pack. He's been on this program before because he was behind what can only be described as a spectacular documentary film about Clarence Thomas. It was on PBS, which is as good as the film. In other words, as good as the film is, the fact that it was on PBS is perhaps, frankly, better than the film. It's outstanding that it was able to be aired on PBS. Michael Pack, welcome.
Thank you very much, Eric. And let me remind your viewers and listeners, they can still see it. It's streaming. It's on Amazon and iTunes and many other platforms. And it is a great film. I agree with you, Eric.
Would you drop the title for us, please?
It's called Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words.
The fact, Michael, that you were able to get it on PBS, that's really the big news, because A lot of great stuff out there that doesn't find mainstream distribution. The fact that PBS viewers got to see the other side of the story, so to speak, was astounding. What's the secret there?
Well, that's true. That was always very important to us, not just to preach to the choir. And well, I have been making documentaries for PBS for over 30 years, and there have been more than 15 that have been aired nationally. And I have to say, in defense of PBS, that they have always been enthusiastic about this film. It's Justice Thomas telling a story directly to camera based on 30 hours of interview time with him, unprecedented. It was a coup at every level for PBS. I hope that they would still air it now that we've entered an even more polarizing time.
Oh, yeah.
I hope so, but I'm not so sure.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
One of the reasons I'm so optimistic about this nation is that today's generation of young Americans is the most progressive, thoughtful, inclusive generation that America has ever seen. Well, thoughtful, that's a toughie. And they are pulling us toward justice in so many ways, forcing us to confront the huge gap in economic inequity. I'm reading as it's written. Between those at the top and everyone else, forcing us to confront the existential crisis of climate, and yes, forcing us to confront systemic racism and white supremacy. Almost every talk he uses the words white supremacy. This is a gigantic lie of the left, that white supremacy is a danger in this country. Do any of you know a white supremacist? I mean, other than Sean, I don't know one. Just the other day, he walked in, he goes, whites are supreme. He was talking about egg whites, but it doesn't matter. His very preference for egg whites is suspect. There's no question. And now, as I return to Earth, do any of you know a white supremacist?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Jen Psaki is having a tough week, but we will circle back. Let's play the montage of Jen Psaki just in the last week. She's got a lot. I don't know if she ever circled back to any of these questions. Could you imagine if Kayleigh McEnany would have been just saying something like this? Play tape.
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you. I'll circle back with you if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back with. I'm happy to circle back with you. I can circle back. I will have to circle back on that one. That's an excellent question. Oh, such an important question. We will circle back with you, and we'll circle back with you. It's an interesting question, but we'll circle back. I'm happy to circle back, but I'll have to circle back with you on it. It's a good question, but we'll circle back with you on this.
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt. If you are watching on YouTube, do you notice anything different in the background? Do you notice it? The special edition? You got to go over to YouTube. Just tell me if you notice it. I always tweak. I just play around a little bit. See if you folks, especially the tribbles, can find out. Over at YouTube, you can subscribe. Just hit the subscriber. You'll be a subscriber. You'll get the most important stuff, including my admonition to the Redditors out there, get out of the market. Sergio in Miami. Good morning, Sergio. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Hugh. How you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Hey, Hugh, I just took the vaccine yesterday, and my arm is a little sore, but other than that, I'm walking. I'm doing everything normal. nothing's happened. I work in the medical field. I have a bunch of people who have taken it that work with me. Some different people have had different side effects. Some had a little fever, mostly soreness, a little weakness, but nothing that lasted more than one night.
Exactly. And Sergio, you got it because you're a healthcare worker? Because you sound young.
Yes.
How old are you?
Oh, no, I'm 57.
Well, you still sound younger than I am, but I'm glad you got it. You're below the 65 and what is your admonition? What's your appeal to people about this vaccine? You work in healthcare. What's your appeal to people?
Well, I was reluctant to take it at the beginning. I just like that 30% that wanted to wait to see what happens. But listen, a lot of people are falling through the cracks when they do the test, the COVID test, the swabbing, and they're coming up on the floors, and after you've been working with them, they come out positive. And now other people have become positive that work there because of this, because they were missing them. And that made me start thinking that maybe I should take it just in case, you know?
That is exactly the right reasoning, Sergio. Thank you. It's not just about Sergio. It's about everybody that you work with.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's a bad disease. For the people who get sick and end up on the bench, the prognosis is poor.
That is, and you know, think about, you might think you're in great health. I'm in great shape. I can go out this morning and do 10 miles. And I don't think if I get it, it's going to hurt me because I got a great respiratory system. I still don't want to pass it on to someone who doesn't. Comes down to that moral choice. Sergio, thank you. Mary Kay in Georgia. Good morning, Mary Kay. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good morning, Hugh. I did take the vaccine. I have the second dose is scheduled for February 6th.
Good for you. Why did you do it?
Well, one of the reasons was to protect my patients. I don't take the flu vaccine. However, I did feel that it was the right thing to do. I had to put my hat of saying I'm not doing that aside and just basically do the right thing.
What do you mean your patients? Are you a doctor, Mary Kay?
I'm a dentist in Georgia.
Yeah, I sure would want my dentist to get it. I don't have a checkup scheduled for another 3 months or so, but I'm sure he'll have had it. I do not want to go to the dentist who hasn't had the vaccine. Period. End of story. Don't want to do it until I'm vaccinated. Until I won't be eligible. I turn 65 in February. I'm going to be on. As soon as my birthday rolls around, I'm getting in line. Thank you, Mary Kay. Tina in Pittsburgh. What do you say, Tina?
Good morning, Hugh. I listen to you as much as I can, but as a nurse, I'm concerned of the long-term effects. I've been listening to independent researchers that have some issues on long-term effects, not short-term effects.
And Tina, let me stop there. Let me break in. I have talked at length with a PhD toxicologist in my family a half dozen times. He's not independent. He is retired from Johnson & Johnson. He brought a half dozen drugs to market. There are far more significant long-term effects from getting COVID than could possibly come from the virus. So if your concern is long-term effects, you should get the vaccine because we know the long-term effects of the virus are devastating. So if your concern is long-term effects, you really got to go get the virus as soon as you can. But I appreciate your nursing, Tina. Stay out there on the front line. Come right back, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Jen Psaki is having a tough week, but we will circle back. Let's play the montage of Jen Psaki just in the last week. She's got a lot. I don't know if she ever circled back to any of these questions. Could you imagine if Kayleigh McEnany would have been just saying something like this? Play tape.
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you. I'll circle back with you if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back with you. I'm happy to circle back with you. I can circle back. I will have to circle back on that one. That's an excellent question. Oh, such an important question. We will circle back with you, and we'll circle back with you. It's an interesting question, but we'll circle back. I'm happy to circle back, but I'll have to circle back with you on it. It's a good question, but we'll circle back with you on this today. We will certainly circle back with you more directly.
That's 1 week. She's got a lot of circling back to do.
Maybe we should circle back with her on whether or not she circled back
That's
on
right.
any of those questions.
I'd like to know if she actually circled back with this. And look, one of the reasons why, and Isabel, you made this point in the break, there's just kind of this clumsiness to how to answer these questions, is we need to ask Jen Psaki and the White House, why are you there? What is your mandate? And actually, by pursuing the impeachment and conviction of Trump, they are pursuing the one mandate they told themselves.
Right. Their entire objective on the campaign trail was to get rid of Donald Trump, whatever it took. And then once we get there, we'll kind of figure out what we want to do once we're in office. And you're seeing that so perfectly reflected in these daily press briefings, which kudos to them for having, by the way, starting on day one. It is great to see a public face of the administration, but her inability to answer any question virtually to a full extent just goes to show that they're still figuring out what they want to do.
Well, and also it's just, that's exactly right. And the mandate to govern is missing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Yesterday's vote by 45 Republicans to assert that an impeachment trial of a private citizen named Donald Trump is unconstitutional is a really big deal. I know the media doesn't really want to touch it. Maybe they're just burned out on it. I don't know. But you understand that if there is an impeachment trial, this surely means he's going to be acquitted. If he's acquitted, he is going to claim complete and total vindication. If he's acquitted, he's going to run again, and he is not going anywhere. The MAGA movement just got a huge shot in the arm. Senator Rand Paul yesterday on the floor of the Senate convincing all Republican senators except the handful of never-Trumper malcontents, it's the same bunch, Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, Ben Sass, Lisa Murkowski, Toomey, it's the same ones that it's always been. But 45 Republicans, including Mitch McConnell, agreed with Senator Rand Paul.
Unity is the opposite of this travesty we are about to witness. If we are about to try to impeach a president, where is the Chief Justice? If the accused is no longer president, where is the constitutional power to impeach him? Private citizens don't get impeached. Impeachment is for removal from office. And the accused here has already left office. Hyper-partisan Democrats are about to drag our great country down into the gutter of rancor and vitriol, the likes of which has never been seen in our nation.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Welcome back, America. I love the first comment. I posted my my explanation of the market dynamics of yesterday over at Twitter, and my AM message to the gamblers playing with their money on GameStop: get out of the stock market now. And I took a good 15 minutes to try and explain it to the Steelers fans and the Redditors out there. And so the first comment that came in from Surf City, with a grand total of 872, he follows, or she follows, or the bot follows 872 people, and they have 65 followers. So it could be a bot, could be a 12-year-old. You never know, right? I just checked this because I wanted to see, what did people say? Okay, boomer. I love that. Sums it up perfectly. Okay, boomer. That is what's driving the GameStop bubble. Get out now. Now, this market report is brought to you by andrewandtodd.com. And people who trade GameStop on Reddit, who are talking about it on Reddit, they're actually trading it on markets and through Robinhood and through a variety of different means. Those people aren't going to care much about a 15-year rate or a 30-year rate, or the fact that it's the greatest investment moment in the world for real estate. They're too busy playing roulette from home in the basement by betting on GameStop and AMC and all these other screw the short moves. And I explained it all. You can go watch the YouTube video. I'm not going to do it again. I am here to tell you that the market went down 633 points yesterday. The Dow did. And the S&P went down almost 100, and the NASDAQ went down 355 points yesterday. Why? Because of this weird bubble stuff, and because Facebook and Apple gave less than glowing guidance for the next quarter. So a lot of people, markets are forward looking, they got out. But you know what didn't change? The 10-year Treasury, 1.014%. Now, my guess is if I asked 100 Reddit posters about who are invested in GameStop, what's the significance of 10-year Treasury being at 1.014% to you? They would not know that it means it is the greatest moment, and I'm 64 years old. The greatest moment of my life to buy real estate is right now. Because the cost of the money is so low to borrow. Now, you have to qualify. That's where andrewandtodd.com come in. They're with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They lend you the money. But you got to go and call them at 888-888-1172. And you know what, Reddit people? It's going to take a while. It's going to take a few weeks to get approved. And they're going to want to know your credit score. And they're going to want to know if you didn't pay your bills on time. And they're going to know if you've ever had a credit card and if you got some money in the bank and are you borrowing the down payment? Are your parents or your grandparents going to be non-occupying co-borrowers, which is just fine. That's just great. Now, you might want to be part of the Reddit mob that sent AMC 200% higher yesterday. That might float your boat. But time's going to pass and you're going to wish. You're going to say, gosh, I should have listened to that Hewitt when I was riding in the back of my car. And I know there are some teens in the back of the car that are being driven to high school right now by mom and dad. Or they're in a carpool. And some geek who's on the debate team is listening to me because they want to be smart. I get that. And listen to me right now. If you are that Reddit person, stop that and buy some real estate. Oh, I can't buy some real estate. Get some friends together and buy some real estate. Every wealthy person I know owns real estate. Have you ever met a wealthy person or a well-off upper middle class person or a middle class person with stability in their life who did not own real estate? They exist. I understand that. But people who own real estate generally have a good life. andrewandtodd.com. Go get financed. Answer their questions. Get off Reddit. Go build a life. All right, back to the phones. I'm talking about getting the vaccine for COVID. Stephen in Texas. How are you, Stephen?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm great, thank you.
Well, I had planned on getting it, and here's why. It's like the flu vaccine, and I don't do that. It's not like the polio vaccine I took when I was a young kid, where you do it one time, it's done. Anecdotally, out there on the web, you see information that says that, maybe this thing's got a 6 month, 3 months, 6 months protection life to it.
All right, Stephen, let me interrupt you. First of all, anecdotal evidence is evidence of anecdotes. And that means if you read a story, it is only the story. It is not a study. And I believe in data, and I base my life on data and on information I'm being read. Anecdotal evidence that it doesn't last very long is not scientifically sound. Again, I go back to my toxicologist to the show. We don't know yet. It might have lifetime efficacy. It is at least likely to have 1 year long efficacy. It is not like the polio vaccine, one and done, but the consequences of not getting it can in fact be like the polio vaccine, the consequence of not getting that, which is death. And so you're flipping a coin based on anecdotal evidence, which is evidence of anecdotes, and you're playing with your life and the life of your children and grandchildren. Do you have them?
I do. I do have them. And my wife will probably encourage me, but...
Can we stay on them for a second? How old are they?
28 to early 30s.
All right. So if you get it and you are asymptomatic, they can get it, and they might not be asymptomatic. They could range from the very small number in the age cohort you've described, 28 to 35, who die, and the larger number who get somewhat sick, and the smaller number who get very, very sick. If that happens, Stephen, do you realize you have moral agency there?
Yeah, but that's really not any different than the influenza that happens every year.
Oh, it's much different, because flu is not going to have lifetime scarring of your lung tissue. Flu isn't going to kill you. It might kill old people. Flu does kill old people. Flu doesn't kill 28 to 35-year-olds except in the most rare of circumstances, and it's not a long-term effect. I mean, the argument that it's not polio and it's more like the flu is simply not true. So, Stephen, go read some more. You sound like a smart guy. What do you do for a living?
I'm retired. I used to be in telecommunications.
You know, I know you're a smart guy.
Why is that?
Look, old-fashioned radio. You paused before you talked. You paused to make your point. You spoke in the kind of sentences. You're not emotional. You're reviewing this, and you cited anecdotal data, correctly identifying the source of your concern. But I'd ask you to take what I give you and listen to your wife. You know the other secret to a happy life, Stephen?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, okay. Listen to your wife, buddy. Thank you, friend. Mike in Pittsburgh. What do you say, Mike?
I totally agree. Get the vaccine. Wife was vaccinated. Family members, I'm scheduled. I'll get it. You know,
are you a Steelers fan?
Well, that's a long story.
I'm glad it's not a yes, because then you would have blown up my whole thesis of the problem in America. It's Steelers fans.
I'm actually warming up to the Browns.
You should be, because we are the team of the future. Mahomes, watch out. If you didn't have the refs and the payroll, we'd already be in the Super Bowl.
I'm a Baker fan, honestly. So
Baker is the guy. He is going to be there for 15 years. No Aaron Rodgers problems there. No Tom Brady leaving at the end. Baker's in Cleveland forever. I can't wait to have a steak at Baker's. He hadn't opened it yet, but I'm going there.
I'd go. But I'm warming up to him. But I do want to say, you know, with patients, you know, we want patients, general public, give informed consent, make educated decisions, be part of the decision-making process. You know, with any inoculation and immunization, any procedure.
100% agree.
You want to be part of the process versus just telling them to line up and take it.
I don't believe in that. That's why I'm making my argument from data. And by the way, I have spent so much more time talking to my family member than I have in the previous 5 years. Because again, this one is the smart guy in the family. He's a PhD toxicologist. I mean, I don't get this stuff. The science is not, I stopped at high school physics when Gary Snyder, God love you, didn't flunk me. And after that, I'm a political science guy, and I'm a journalist, and I'm a lawyer, and I'm pretty good at that stuff. But I know we have expert witnesses for a reason. We go to them, and so I have spent hours talking to him about this. What about this? What about that? And so I can honestly say, I think as a layman, I'm as well educated as any layman out there. It's a no-brainer.
It is, and that's also part of the issue too. That I don't want a politician making healthcare, medical, and science decisions for me, and I don't want a doctor giving me economic and policy decisions.
Amen. I do not. I heard a doctor on KNX. KNX is a station in L.A. And by the way, I went to get a COVID test yesterday. One of the reasons I want this thing over is because whenever I get exposed, I have to go get a test because I deal with people. And so I had to go get my second test in 2 weeks. It's a pain in the neck. Cost me $120. And I feel fine. I still got to go. And I heard a doctor on KNX talking down to people, clearly a Biden voter, clearly trying to make this a political issue. And a doctor who has no more grasp of politics than I do of that doctor's specialty. Makes me crazy.
And I think that's part of the issue going on is that mistrust, and honestly, it's a numbers issue. And I don't know if you're aware of the reports that are coming out of Norway. Norway, also Germany and Israel. It was in Bloomberg had it in a couple weeks ago with the Pfizer vaccine. Reported deaths. Now again, over 75, high on the frailty scale, all nursing home patients. Norway had vaccinated 48,000 people in its population, and they reported 33 deaths to date that they linked to the Pfizer vaccine.
Can I interrupt you here because I'm looking at the Times of Israel this morning. Just came out. Vaccine found 92% effective in Israel in first controlled result outside of trials. Very, very, very good news in the first such study in the world. Only 31 people out of 163,000 fully vaccinated Maccabi members caught the virus, indicating Pfizer shots living up to expectation, results well within the expected standard deviation. I am not saying that no one will get sick or die from this. I am just saying the efficacy and the overwhelming evidence is to get the shot.
You have reported a fact right there that needs to be said when you said 92%, and also the fact that you said you're not saying no one is going to get sick or die from this, from the vaccine itself.
I'm not. That would be a lie. I will never lie to this audience. Mike, thank you. Stick with Baker. I got to do my promo for Relief Factor because while we're talking about vaccines, I also want people to get out and exercise. The very best thing you can do for your life is stay in shape. And if you're out of shape, it's get back into shape. And sometimes it takes a year, and today is the first day you do that, and Relief Factor is part of that program. If you take Relief Factor every day, you will support the temporary relief of minor aches and pains. That means you're going to be able to go along a little bit more every day. Walk 100 yards a day, walk 200 the next day, walk a mile. I did 7 on Saturday. I've had this doggone cold for 3 days, but I hope to get back out today. ReliefFactor.com makes it possible. Go and get it. $19.95 gets you started. Senator Jim Talent next on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by No Safe Spaces.
This is Albert Mohler for Townhall.com. The American experiment is founded upon a presupposition, a prior commitment to an ordered liberty, an established order. That means policies. It means a covenant. In our case, it means a constitution. As of right now, the U.S. Constitution is the longest surviving written constitution in human history. It's a remarkable document. All of that came to the fore in violent events that interrupted the joint session of Congress to count the votes of the Electoral College. At the end of the day, our constitutional order proved itself once again resilient. But that doesn't take away any of the tragedy and the horror of what took place. It was an enormous stress test on ordered liberty, a stress test brought on by the President of the United States.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
It's an opportunity for the right, the left, conservatives, liberals, all Americans to repudiate political violence and reaffirm, once again, our commitment to ordered liberty. It's the American way. I'm Albert Mohler.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Farrakhan lives in a mansion. Sharpton, we know he made a boatload of money because he was $5 million light in taxes, according to the New York Times at one point. For you to get $5 million light in taxes, you have to make a boatload of money. How is it that America is intrinsically, foundationally, endemically, structurally, institutionally racist, but these guys get a pass? But I'm the guy the man's going to come after when the man gets mad. Really? And again, according to Van Jones, this is all about a white lash because of a changing country, right?
I mean, we've talked about everything but race tonight. We've talked about income. We've talked about class. We've talked about region. We haven't talked about race. This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes. And Donald Trump has a responsibility tonight to come out and reassure people that he is going to be the president of all the people who he insulted and offended.
So it's a white lash on the part of insecure, scared white people because of a changing America that demographically is changing. Well, America has changed demographically from 2016 to 2020. So wouldn't Donald Trump therefore get a higher percentage of this paranoid white male vote instead of a smaller percentage? He's down 4 percentage points among white males compared to 2016. Is this thing on? I thought it was a white lash against white people afraid of the change in the country. The country's still changing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Department of Homeland Security, which is
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt, joined now by former Senator Jim Talent from the great state of Missouri. Senator Talent, I was just reporting to people that just posted in the Times of Israel, in the first major study outside of the trials, the Pfizer vaccine was found to be 92% effective in Israel. In the first controlled trial, only 31 of 163,000 Israelis who got the vaccination proceeded to catch coronavirus. It's great news about the efficacy of the vaccine. People just need to go and get it.
Yes, I agree, and I agree basically with the priorities that most jurisdictions are following: healthcare workers, and then the most vulnerable, and then you go down the chain. And one hopes that we will be out of this pretty soon, as a practical matter. The political leaders need to follow suit by lifting these oppressive social distancing rules so that we begin to dig out from under the collateral costs of them, right, in terms of human harm. So, I agree with you.
Now, I earlier today posted a story about the groups most resistant to getting the vaccine are blacks, rural people, and Republicans. That makes no sense to me. We're supposed to be the evil and smart party, not the stupid party.
Listen, I think a little bit of skepticism. If you're like 25 years old or even older, I mean, you do have a judgment. There is some risk involved in taking a vaccine. Now, I hope people are not hearing what I'm not saying here. Okay. And I would understand balancing that against the very, very slight risk that if you get the disease, it will be serious in your case. So let's give the American people a little credit. I mean, they need to get used to this.
But I'm going to ask you a question, Jim, because you and I share an evangelical faith. The risk of this disease is not actually to me or you. We're both in pretty good shape, although we're older. The risk is that we will vector it to someone who is vulnerable. And therefore, I think it is a moral obligation to get it.
I think they're going to reach that conclusion, but I also am not going to begrudge somebody who says, I just don't come into contact with people who are vulnerable. I mean, there are a lot of people.
No, now that's if there's someone who doesn't. But that you'd better be living in a monk cell somewhere. Hey, buddy, I needed to ask you the most important question. As a adjunct to the Abraham Accords, the United States agreed to sell 50 F-35s to United Arab Emirates, belittle Sparta. The Biden administration has put that under review. What do you make of that decision?
Yeah, well, first of all, more broadly, one of my concerns about the Biden administration is if we don't have clear direction from the top, which means from the Oval, right, on these decisions, we're just going to study them to death when we need to take actions. Now, if you look at the Abraham Accords in the broadest sense, what is potentially happening here is that a coalition, including Egypt, Jordan, Israel, the Gulf states, is coming together, which has the capability of ensuring an acceptable balance of power and equilibrium in the Middle East without the constant involvement of the United States, right? Which would be an enormous success. It's why you and I have been, one of the reasons we've been so enthusiastic about these things. Now, such a coalition is going to require, to some extent, empowering the various players. And this is what the Biden administration has to understand. And they should not be an obstacle to this. This holds the possibility of protecting our interests and security in the Middle East without as great a commitment on the part of the United States, right? So,
and I would add, it holds the possibility of helping the Palestinians. Because if they don't have a veto, they have much more incentive to participate in whatever is on the table.
Yes, a lasting, a potential stability and peace between Israel and Palestinians is one of the benefits of this. More broadly, though, if you're looking at American interests, you know, Israel is now powerful enough in connection with these other countries that if they continue working together, they may be able to constrain Iran, for example, without as much involvement of the United States. So you have to look at these kinds of deals in that context. And I
what do you think about my argument, Jim, that if you're a boss and for years you can't do anything on Land for Peace because you've got a left wing and you've got Hamas, if suddenly you've lost your veto, can't you go to your people and say, well, look, we used to have the veto, we don't have it, so I'm going to make the best deal I can while I can?
Yeah, it brings that into play. It makes it plausible. I mean, this was an enormous success, and we talked about it, and it was, and that's one of the reasons. It now makes peace possible because, look, it says you're going to be superseded. You're going to become vestigial if you don't get on board with this plan, yes. And that's a powerful argument. Yes. I mean, saying that to the Palestinian leadership.
And what would be the consequence in 30 seconds of welching on a deal that we made with the UAE?
Well, the potential is disrupting this whole process. And there's, you know, look, I don't mind if they want to do a couple of weeks of review of this. I mean, I don't want to be churlish here. They just took over. They need some time to look at it. I don't want to see a series of infighting within the administration because we don't have strong leadership from the Oval Office.
Well put. As usual, Jim Talent. Follow him on Twitter from the Bipartisan Policy Center at Jim Talent. Easy to remember. Follow me to hour number 3 of the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who deserves to be ousted, and you can sign the petition to oust him. It is up at DennisPrager.com. Where would people find it? The petition to oust Newsom. Cited on the show. So listen to this. He instituted a indoor dining ban, according to this graph here. It starts but the middle of November. Cases zoomed up in California. The graph is like the side, not even of a ski slope. It's almost a perpendicular line. It's almost 90 degrees. That is how intense the increase in in California, positive cases, and ICU filled by positive cases, all right? Then at the height, right after Joe Biden becomes president, Newsom cancels the stay-at-home order. There are almost half the ICU beds available with the cancellation of order than there were when he put in the order. That means only one thing. It has nothing to do with science. As I've told you, the left never follows science. They follow the scientists they agree with.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Here's a question that she should have circled back on. Let's go to cut 63.
Is the White House concerned about the stock market activity we're seeing around GameStop? And have there been any conversations with the SEC about how to proceed?
Well, I'm also happy to repeat that we have the first female Treasury Secretary and a team that's surrounding her, and often questions about market we'll send to them. But our team is, of course, our economic team, including Secretary Yellen and others, are monitoring the situation. It's a good reminder, though, that the stock market isn't the only measure of the health of our economy. It doesn't reflect how working and middle-class families are doing.
Okay, so I'm going to say something, and I don't want this to be misunderstood, but Isabel can help clarify it for me. It's completely and totally irrelevant to the question whether or not Janet Yellen is a woman. And by the way, I thought you don't believe in women or men.
Right. I find it so ironic. The left is so excited. We have our first female vice president, which is awesome to see as a woman in politics. That's an incredible accomplishment. But again, you don't recognize that there even are two genders or that gender is anything but a social construct. So I fail to see how that's relevant from their political side of things. But, you know, we spent the first hour going into a deep dive on insider trading, on the situation with GameStop. The public information is available. It's out there. So I find it interesting that the comms team this morning didn't brief the White House press secretary. But no fear, everyone. We have our first female Treasury Secretary.
Irrelevant.
Nobody freak out.
Is the person qualified? I couldn't care less. What does that have to do with anything? What that is a crudgel.
Yes.
What that is Jen not knowing how to answer a question and say, hey, take it easy. You know, we have a woman in that position. That's what that is. Like, stop asking me tough questions.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Night on Sean Hannity's show, Senator Lindsey Graham asserted that this is all driven by fear on the part of the Democrats. I agree, but I would have to add a footnote to what Senator Graham said last night to Sean on Fox News.
Why are they doing this? They're afraid. I think Democratic senators are afraid of the left wing of their party, that if they don't give some credibility to this trial that started in the House, they're in trouble. And Joe Biden's been a huge disappointment thus far, not only on policy, but on the idea that I'm going to bring the country together. How easy would it be, Sean, for Joe Biden to say it is bad to impeach a president after they leave office? Enough already with Donald Trump. Let's look forward. So it tells you a lot about Biden's ability and desire to bring us together by the fact that he's sitting on the sidelines, and his only comment has been, I don't think they have the votes.
I don't disagree with that, but I would add one footnote. Again, I would add this. There's fear, all right. They don't know what to do with Donald Trump and tens of millions of supporters who are not going anywhere. They want us to go away. They want to wish us away. They want to will us away. They want to censor us away. They want to shut us down.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
What I say, you said I call MSNBC names. I call them MSNBC hee-haw because I think a lot of their hosts are pretty silly. But you think that's really cruel and mean and nasty? It's the same thing as calling somebody a fascist or Hitler or a dictator or a Nazi the way Donald Trump often is referred to, Mark? Is that the same?
Since his actions are that way, probably yes.
What has Donald Trump done that, in your view, makes him a Nazi or a fascist, Mark, please?
Oh, okay. Well,
we don't need a lot. He's been around 4 years. Just give me one example of what makes you believe that Donald Trump is a fascist, or that when people say that, that's an accurate term.
Hey, I know you're going to disagree, but when David Duke,
David Duke,
it took him months.
You can't even remember his name. That's fascinating, Mark. The reason you can't remember his name is because the only time he's relevant is when somebody's running for election. No one's mentioned David Duke since Joe Biden got elected. The only time he's brought up is when a Republican's running for election, and then the Democrats compare him or her to David Duke. You can't even think of his name. I think it's pretty telling.
And what about the Proud Boys?
He's the lead. Do you know any Proud Boys, Mark? You ever seen one? You know who they are? Where they are? Talk to me.
No, but I know what they
I don't either. Have you ever seen a white Mark? Have you ever seen a white supremacist?
Well, fortunately, I don't associate with those people.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't, Mark, because you're a decent guy, and most people in America are decent and don't associate with people like that. That's why it's so ridiculous that Donald Trump is asked to denounce somebody that nobody associates with, Mark. It's foolish. That's why I'm angry at the left. Thanks for calling, though, Mark. I appreciate it. I'm Larry Elder.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
As this avowed Bernie supporter shot Steve Scalise, nearly killing him, and shot one of our coaches and 2 or 3 of our staff, he screamed, "This is for health care." Ask me or anyone if that's incitement.
That man's name was James Hodgkinson, who tried to murder Rand Paul, Steve Scalise, and everybody on that baseball diamond. That was Senator Paul reacting to the attempt to try in the Senate Donald Trump after he left office. We are back with Dinesh D'Souza. This is a Rebuilding the Right. Dinesh, you mentioned this maybe 20 minutes ago, but let's reiterate, let's be clear about it. Of the 2 political parties in America today, one of them has normalized violence in the last 4 years, and it isn't the GOP, is it?
That's absolutely true. Even if you look at Trump's speech, played speech, we got to rise up, we got to fight. This is political standard rhetoric. This is not incitement. Now, I hear that the House managers are trying to use the reaction of people to the speech to sort of
Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings to my 400 affiliates across the United States and anyone listening on YouTube or Facebook around the world. I want to remind everyone tomorrow is the annual March for Life. It is January 29th this year. It has been going on for decades and decades. And to mark that, I asked Senator Marco Rubio to join me because Senator Rubio has a 100% rating from the National Right to Life Committee. Got a 100% rating from Illinois Citizens for Life. He's got a 100% rating from Family Research Council and a 0% rating from Planned Parenthood and a 0% from NARAL Pro-Choice America. So, Senator Rubio, I guess we know where you stand on this issue.
I always remind people that this whole issue of abortion is a very difficult issue, and because it does, in fact, involve a woman's right to choose what she wants with her body. The problem is that on the issue of abortion, there's another human being involved, and that's an unborn child's right to live. So you've got these 2 competing rights, the right to live versus the right to choose. And on that, I err on the side of life, or I choose on the side of life, because it's the most fundamental of rights. Without life, none of the other rights we claim are possible. The freedom of religion, freedom of speech, democracy, none of these things are possible without life. And so I think every time we're forced to choose between a human, especially an innocent human life, and some other right, I'm going to be pretty clear about that.
So pro-life voters feel like they lost big time in November. In fact, I believe that the new Supreme Court and a number of new appeals court judges will soon be returning the decisions to the states, and that Republicans won big in state legislatures. How do you analyze November from the perspective of being a pro-life defender for as long as you've been in the Senate?
Well, if you think about it, in the state legislatures, where we picked up not just seats but states, that's very good news, because that's the places where you're going to see laws passed that are eventually going to find their way to the Supreme Court. And these laws are not intended to deny anyone any rights. They're denied, in many cases, they're designed to prevent the most outrageous and egregious abortion practices, like, a child that's born alive, or a child that is, the partial birth techniques that are used. Also safety. I mean, the licensing and requirements that doctors be there. I think at the federal level, the one that I think makes all the sense in the world is a law that I've been a part of for many years now, which is to say that you cannot move someone across state lines, so a minor, for purposes of an abortion. You think about all the things that a minor needs parental permission for, but in many states, abortion is not one of them. So I think that's a big win. I think the other thing is the judiciary. Again, the courts don't make policy decisions, or they shouldn't be making policy decisions. They make constitutional decisions. And the idea that somehow the federal U.S. Constitution has in it an explicit or an implicit privacy right that applies to abortion is something that I think is going to continue to be tested.
I believe that Roe will be overturned by this court, and I believe it will not be long. And it will not, by the way, make abortion illegal in places like California and New York, which have, in fact, embedded it in their state constitutions. That is a false dichotomy. But other states that have a different political point of view will, in fact, be able to legislate on the issue of when and when not abortion is available at their own direction. They will no longer be controlled by the federal Supreme Court. And Senator Rubio, I think you support that position, do you not?
Yeah. So if you think about it, I mean, and that's a debate we need to take to the state capitals. But I think that's one of the big things that they say out there that just aren't true, and they confuse people. And that is, well, if Roe v. Wade goes away, it makes it illegal. What Roe v. Wade says is that no state can make abortion illegal. It doesn't say what states can do. And as you've pointed out, there are states, and I anticipate there will be states where the law will continue to be what it is. But what it does, one of the things that Roe has done is it's made it very difficult to make what's already a terrible practice to make it safer, or to ensure that some of the worst abuses don't occur. And so, frankly, the one thing that always angers me is, if you think about it, and they're never asked this, but really, leading Democratic politicians, in order to get the 100% rating they need from the pro-abortion groups, they can't be in favor of any restrictions of any kind. None whatsoever, and that includes late-term abortions. They can't be for that. They're never asked about that, even though that's a position that the overwhelming majority of Americans, that's a practice that overwhelming majority of Americans think should not be occurring.
Not only not think, they find it repulsive. Now, Senator, I want to get to a couple other issues. First of all, the vaccine rollout in your state is doing well. Governor DeSantis has actually been one of the superstars of dealing with the virus. How do you assess the vaccine rollout in Florida right now?
Look, it's a difficult thing to do, so I have to assess it by comparing it to other states. And I can tell you we're doing much better than some of the states that get all of the glory from the national media. It's one of those issues that really points to you sort of the implicit bias in the narratives that are chosen by the national media, some are worse than others. Yeah, you would think that New York is a shining example of how to do this. And I mean, I think California is a complete and utter disaster. We've got people trying to come to Florida just to get the vaccine. I mean, we had to actually deal with that issue that people come there to get the vaccine because they have no chance of getting it in their own state. And remember, Florida, like all states, depends on what the federal government's making available to them. So if you think about it, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but by the end of this month, I believe every long-term care facility, nursing homes, ALFs, and so forth, every one of them will have had every patient and or worker have had the opportunity to take the vaccine. And, we're up to, I think, over 20-25% of our seniors have already received at least one dose of it, which is the most vulnerable population. So that's a pretty substantial, and then obviously that number keeps getting chipped away at every day.
I think your state's done a marvelous job. Now, I want to talk about the impeachment trial. You voted not to proceed. Was that on constitutional grounds, Senator?
It is. And I'll tell you a couple things about that. The first is the automatic penalty for a guilty verdict, right, on an impeachment trial. The automatic penalty is removal from office. So that tells you that the purpose of it is to remove someone from office. That is the sole purpose of an impeachment trial, is to remove them. You can't remove someone that's already left. And so that's the first thing I would point to. The second is how divisive, this continues to pour fuel on a raging fire of division in our country. Rather than being able to move forward, we continue on with this whole thing. It's a really stupid idea. And on top of the fact that I think it sets a terrible precedent. You look at the third world, one of the most typical things you'll find in the Western Hemisphere and Latin America and other places is every immediate past president of those countries is under indictment, is in jail because their successor goes after them. I mean, we're going to start a pattern in this country of if someone wins the presidency and the opposing party, suddenly someone is out of office, the opposing party takes over, they're immediately going to try to persecute them post-office. It's just terrible, terrible precedent.
It is a disaster, and everyone who's a former official, including me and Jim Comey and everyone else who's ever been confirmed by the Senate, ought to realize that if this goes through, they are fair game when people get mad at them. Final question is political. I was stunned when Rob Portman stepped down this week or announced he would not run for re-election. I'm from Ohio. I think Rob Portman is a great senator. To what do you put that, Senator Rubio? And are you, in fact, running for re-election? I just want an assurance that we're not going to have any more stunners coming out of here.
No, I'm running for re-election. And in terms of Rob, I can't speak to him. But I'll tell you this, when you run for re-election to the Senate, you're signing a 6-year contract, which means for the next 6 years of your life, you're committing to doing this job. And, a lot of people watch from afar, but ultimately, it's a job that you really have to have all your heart and soul into. Some people want to do it for 40 years. Some people serve a term or two and feel like they've done what they wanted to do and go back, and I respect that very much. Look, I don't intend to be here for the rest of my life. You won't find me here in my 80s, but I do think there's work I want to finish, especially at this important moment. So that's why I'm running for re-election. But I think for someone like Rob, who's been in public service for a long time, served in the House, was a trade representative, there comes a moment where you might want to do other things with your life, and that's something that's noble and that we should understand and support.
Now, I want to close by asking about Florida, which got redder in 2020. It voted more for President Trump in 2020 than it did in 2016. What is going on in Florida? Why is it the new Texas, Senator Rubio, in terms of political characterization and colorization?
Well, continue to take a lot of hard work, but I would say two things. One is we have people moving from all of these places that have crazy governors and crazy mayors, and so that's helping. You have people that were intending to move anyway that have accelerated that timeline. But I think the other really interesting thing is, and they say Hispanic voters and African-American voter performance for Republicans improved, but I don't think it's because of ethnicity. I'm really tired of all this identity politics. It's really because these are working-class voters. And what did we learn this week? We learned this week that just like COVID, the only way to deal with climate is to put working-class people out of work immediately. I mean, that's the answer. And so every time these people are forced to choose, I say the left, every time they're forced to choose between jobs for people and some other goal they have in mind, the other goal always wins. And, COVID is serious. Climate is something we have to deal with. But I think there's ways to do it without putting, tens of thousands of people out of work immediately.
I remember your answer on the debate stage in 2016 about Miami, that we can do things that mitigate the effects of climate change without putting everyone out of work. You still sticking with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true, and I think that's what we need to do.
Senator Rubio, always good to talk to you. Keep coming back. I'm glad you're running for re-election. I'm glad you'll be at the March for Life or urging it on tomorrow. That is the March for Life around the country and in Washington, D.C. tomorrow, America. I'll be right back on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
This portion of the Hugh Hewitt Show has been brought to you by MyPillow. Call 800-951-5493 or go to MyPillow.com and be sure to use a promo code HUGH.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Tonight on Sean Hannity's show, Senator Lindsey Graham asserted that this is all driven by fear on the part of the Democrats. I agree, but I would have to add a footnote to what Senator Graham said last night to Sean on Fox News.
Why are they doing this? They're afraid. I think Democratic senators are afraid of the left wing of their party, that if they don't give some credibility to this trial that started in the House, they're in trouble. And Joe Biden's been a huge disappointment thus far, not only on policy, but on the idea that I'm going to bring the country together. How easy would it be, Sean, for Joe Biden to say it is bad to impeach a president after they leave office? Enough already with Donald Trump. Let's look forward. So it tells you a lot about Biden's ability and desire to bring us together by the fact that he's sitting on the sidelines, and his only comment has been, I don't think they have the votes.
I don't disagree with that, but I would add one footnote. Again, I would add this. There's fear, all right. They don't know what to do with Donald Trump and tens of millions of supporters who are not going anywhere. They want us to go away. They want to wish us away. They want to will us away. They want to censor us away. They want to shut us down.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
What I say? You said I call MSNBC names. I call them MSNBC hee-haw because I think a lot of their hosts are pretty silly. But you think that's really cruel and mean and nasty? It's the same thing as calling somebody a fascist or Hitler or a dictator or a Nazi the way Donald Trump often is referred to, Mark? Is that the same?
Since his actions are that way, probably yes.
What has Donald Trump done that, in your view, makes him a Nazi or a fascist, Mark, please?
Oh, okay, well.
We don't need a lot. He's been around 4 years. Just give me one example of what makes you believe that Donald Trump is a fascist, or that when people say that, that's an accurate term.
Hey, I know you're going to disagree, but when David Duke.
David Duke?
David Duke,
Mm-hmm.
It took him months.
You can't even remember his name. That's fascinating, Mark. The reason you can't remember his name is because the only time he's relevant is when somebody's running for election. No one's mentioned David Duke since Joe Biden got elected. The only time he's brought up is when a Republican's running for election, and then the Democrats compare him or her to David Duke. You can't even think of his name. I think it's pretty telling.
And what about the Proud Boys?
He's the lead. Do you know any Proud Boys, Mark? You ever seen one? You know who they are? Where they are? Talk to me.
No, but I know what they
I don't either. Have you ever seen a white Mark? Have you ever seen a white supremacist?
Well, fortunately, I don't associate with those people.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't, Mark, because you're a decent guy, and most people in America are decent and don't associate with people like that. That's why it's so ridiculous that Donald Trump is asked to denounce somebody that nobody associates with, Mark. It's foolish. That's why I'm angry at the left. Thanks for calling, though, Mark. I appreciate it. I'm Larry Elder.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
As this avowed Bernie supporter shot Steve Scalise, nearly killing him, and shot one of our coaches and 2 or 3 of our staff, he screamed, "This is for health care." Ask me or anyone if that's incitement.
That man's name was James Hodgkinson, who tried to murder Rand Paul, Steve Scalise, and everybody on that baseball diamond. That was Senator Paul reacting.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. This is brought to you by AndrewandTodd.com, sponsors of a financial segment every morning. AndrewandTodd.com are the best lenders for real estate money in the United States with Sierra Pacific. Longtime sponsors of my show. I know them both very well. Andrew Del Rey, Todd Abakian. They're handling a family member's mortgage right now. They're handling my refinance right now. 888-888-1172. They're the best. They're the best. Go to them. Tell them Hugh sent you. They will help you buy a home or refinance a home at the very best rate, and there is a great rate right now because these are the best interest rates of my life. Don't get left behind. Now, the financial segment today is a GameStop segment, and it's a Wall Street Journal article by James McIntosh. GameStop is a bubble in its purest form. He writes, a combination of GameStop, which was up yesterday 134% in one day. In one day, it went up 134% to $347 a share. GameStop is the platonic ideal of a stock bubble, writes James McIntosh. A combination of easy money, a real improvement in the game company's prospects, technical support from a short squeeze, and a mad rush to get rich or die trying pushed stock in the retailer up 64-fold from late August to Wednesday's close. Anyone who has held on for 10 days made gains of more than 10 times in their money. It is tempting to see GameStop as merely clownish behavior in a chat room having some amusing effects on a stock few care about. That would be a mistake. Sure, the wildly popular Reddit group Wall Street Bets slogan, like 4chan found a Bloomberg terminal, is full of childish chat. Several users report that they have bet their parents' pension fund on GameStop. There are plenty of calls for the stock to go to 1,000 or more. It started the year at $18.84. Its one-year target estimate is $12.39. But GameStop's soaring stock, McIntosh continues, and similar moves in BlackBerry, Nokia, and others, is a bubble in a microcosm, with lessons for those of us worrying about froth elsewhere in the market. GameStop's rise started with some genuinely good news, just as bubbles always do. Ryan Cohen, who built up and sold online pet food retailer Chewy, started building up what is now a 13% stake for his RC ventures in GameStop last year. He pushed for the staid mall-based seller of video games to improve its internet sales. This month, he joined the board. Mr. Cohen's arrival means that GameStop at least has a chance of joining the 21st century. From the first disclosure of his stock purchase in August to the end of November, the shares tripled, helped too by improved prospects for the vaccine-driven reopening of the economy. Along the way, some private investors latched onto the stock, helping its rise, and it became an item of discussion on Wall Street Bets, or r/WSB. That's the Reddit community. This month, the stock moved into the pure speculative phase, producing several daily jumps of 50% or more, and fundamentals were abandoned. Many cheerleaders on r/WSB stopped even making the pretense of arguments about Mr. Cohen's chances of turning the company around. Instead, there were two justifications for buying: wanting to get in on the price action to avoid being ridiculed as someone who missed gigantic profits, and the self-fulfilling prospect of hurting the large numbers of short sellers. As the late economist Charles Kindleberger put it, there is nothing as disturbing to one's well-being and judgment as to see a friend get rich, unless it is to see a non-friend get rich. The scale of trading in GameStop shares is as extraordinary as the daily gains in its price, suggesting widespread disturbance to people's judgment. On Tuesday, $22 billion in shares changed hands, more than Apple, the world's largest company, and double GameStop's market value. Adam Smith, the founder of economics, called speculative manias overtrading. And this is what they look like. All right, I've warned you. I've told you online, over at my YouTube channel, if you're a mom or a dad and you've got a kid in the basement who said, "Mom, Dad, I made $100,000 yesterday," send them to my YouTube channel, and I will instruct them why they should get the hell out today. Today. Because it's gonna burst. It's like the tulip bubble. It's like every other bubble in the history of bubbles. It's a bubble. Get out. Sorry, friends, you had your fun. Make some money. Run away. I'll be right back, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Don't forget to sign up for the Huniverse. All of Hugh's broadcasts on demand, the after show, which in my opinion is worth the price all by itself, Dwayne FM, and all sorts of bonus content. www.huniverse.com.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
His name is Michael Peck. He's been on this program before because he was behind what can only be described as a spectacular documentary film about Clarence Thomas. It was on PBS, which is as good as the film. In other words, as good as the film is, the fact that it was on PBS is perhaps, frankly, better than the film. It's outstanding that it was able to be aired on PBS. Michael Peck, welcome.
Thank you very much, Eric. And let me remind your viewers and listeners, they can still see it. It's streaming. It's on Amazon and iTunes and many other platforms. And it is a great film. I agree with you, Eric.
Would you drop the title for us, please?
It's called Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in His Own Words.
The fact, Michael, that you were able to get it on PBS, that's really the big news, because a lot of great stuff out there that doesn't find mainstream distribution. The fact that PBS viewers got to see the other side of the story, so to speak, was astounding. What's the secret there?
Well, that's true. That was always very important to us, not just to preach to the choir. And well, I have been making documentaries for PBS for over 30 years, and there have been more than 15 that have been aired nationally. And I have to say, in defense of PBS, that they have always been enthusiastic about this film. It's Justice Thomas telling a story directly to camera based on 30 hours of interview time with him, unprecedented. It was a coup at every level for PBS. I hope that they would still air it now that we've entered an even more polarizing time.
Oh, yeah.
I hope so, but I'm not so sure.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
One of the reasons I'm so optimistic about this nation is that today's generation of young Americans is the most progressive, thoughtful, inclusive generation that America has ever seen. Well, thoughtful, that's a toughie. And they are pulling us toward justice in so many ways, forcing us to confront the huge gap in economic inequity. I'm reading as it's written. Between those at the top and everyone else, forcing us to confront the existential crisis of climate, and yes, forcing us to confront systemic racism and white supremacy. Almost every talk he uses the words white supremacy. This is a gigantic lie of the left, that white supremacy is a danger in this country. Do any of you know a white supremacist? I mean, other than Sean, I don't know one. Just the other day, he walked in, he goes, whites are supreme. He was talking about egg whites, but it doesn't matter. His very preference for egg whites is suspect. There's no question. And now, as I return to Earth, do any of you know a white supremacist?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Jen Psaki is having a tough week, but we will circle back. Let's play the montage of Jen Psaki just in the last week. She's got a lot. I don't know if she ever circled back to any of these questions. Could you imagine if Kayleigh McEnany would have been just saying something like this? Play tape.
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you. I'll circle back with you if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back with you. I'm happy.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I'm trying to read my call screener, but Generalissimo is playing with me because he's turned it on its side. So if you're watching on YouTube, I have to look this way to see that Dan in Minnesota is calling about getting a vaccination. Hello, Dan.
Hi, good morning, Hugh. Hugh, I have a question about the where is the research at the present time regarding people who have had COVID, have the antibodies? How urgent is it for them to get the vaccine? What's the concern about them spreading it through through the vector as a vector?
This is an example of what you get on the Hugh Hewitt show. I don't know. I believe it is not yet resolved whether or not people who have had COVID ought to get the vaccine. I believe I recall that it is up for grabs and that people generally are not doing so. Let me ask Generalissimo, is he still there? Hey, Dwayne, have you received advice on whether or not to get vaccinated since you've already had COVID? He's got to run back in.
Sorry, what's that?
Well, one, you broke my call screener. It's sideways.
I'm trying to get back in if you leave me the heck alone.
No, I got to ask. The caller wants to know, are you supposed to get vaccinated after you've had COVID?
You see, that's a really good question. I'm sure they want you to at some point, but to me, you move down on the priority list if you've had the vaccine because you have the antibodies, right?
Yeah, I don't. Dwayne is not a doctor, but you definitely move down
because I certainly don't need it right now if I've already got the antibodies.
You're not giving an answer, though. The correct answer is, I don't know, but I sure don't feel like I need to get it because I've got the antibodies.
Correct. That's what I just said.
So I hope that answer. I can't read. The next caller is from 1-800-520-1234. Joe in Georgia. Hello, Joe. Joe, it's Georgia, Joe. Hello.
Speaking of sideways.
Can you hear me, Hugh?
I can. I just can't read your name because Dwayne broke the call screener.
Okay. Well, this is Joe from Georgia. I just want to say we live in LJ, the encouragement capital of the world, and we're encouraging everybody. I've got 4,000 Facebook followers, and I'm telling them all to listen to the Hugh Hewitt show, and we'd like to invite you down sometime. We got great people down here. I've got a great barber named Marcel.
But you don't have the varsity. I only go to Georgia when I can go to the varsity.
Well, we need to get a varsity in LJ, don't we?
Yeah, I only go. That's the one reason to go to Atlanta is the varsity, Joe. You know that's true.
Well, I went to Georgia Tech, so I can certainly agree with that. I love all their food and have eaten it for years. It's great.
Now, let me ask you a quick question. Who do you want to run for senator against Reverend Warnock, who won despite your best efforts?
Well, I tell you, just about any of of course, I love David Perdue. I know him really well. I don't know whether he'd want to run or not. I think David would be a natural. Now, whether he wants it or not, I don't know. He would be. I think Jody Heiss. Jody's a great congressman. If he would run, I would strongly support.
What about Doug Collins?
I like Doug. Doug didn't vote as good as he was. I think he was a 60 on a scale of 0 to 100. I'd like somebody like Heiss who's up around 90. We got a $27 trillion debt. We got to get people in there like Heiss and Perdue who'll cut spending.
All right, my friend, I've got to talk to Dr. Snyder. Georgia Joe, always a pleasure. Dr. Snyder in Cleveland, how are you, Doc?
Real good, Hugh. Thanks for taking my call. I've spoken to you before.
Oh, well, I'm glad to have you back. Where do you are you at the clinic?
I'm a dentist in Cleveland, and I also teach at the dental school at Case.
That's what I remember. I knew you had some academic affiliation. You're a Case doctor. Okay.
Right.
Case dentist.
With regard to the vaccine, I got it. I encourage everyone to get it because absolutely the shortcomings of getting the virus are much worse. But I wanted to tell you just my story. I entered a Moderna study last June, of which half the people got the placebo and half got the vaccine. And 3 weeks ago, the dental school offered the vaccine. I didn't go for it because I was unblinded a week later. I found out that I got the placebo.
Uh-oh.
And so I was able to get the vaccine at the research facility a couple weeks ago, and I get the second dose in a couple weeks. But interestingly enough, I had the virus in November. I'm 62, very few, if any, symptoms at all. My wife had bad symptoms. My office lady had bad symptoms. 2 of my dental students had bad symptoms. But I didn't have any, nothing at all. And I definitely was positive, both with the nasal swab and the blood test.
You know,
But I got
Dwayne
the
had
vaccine
bad
also.
symptoms too. Dwayne was flat on his back for a long time. When you say bad symptoms, what do you mean? What was the range of bad?
Well, my wife had severe congestion, headaches, and she lost her taste and smell for a couple of weeks.
And any hospitalization among any of these people?
No, none of them. Well, the one dental student, but that's because she was dehydrated. It wasn't because of the respiratory.
So have I been persuasive this morning, Doctor? I'm just trying to explain to people because this study just surprises me that so many people don't want to get the vaccine. It's just nuts.
Well, I think I've got a theory on that, and I think it's just because of the doggone media and this and that. People read stuff on the internet, and they don't know what to believe. I just have to believe that. But yeah, absolutely, people should be encouraged to take it for the good of others.
Yeah, that even if you who had no appreciable illness, you were a vector for a while, right? You were giving it to people.
Well, sure. Well, I could have, yes, but yeah.
And by the way, my in-laws, my son's in-laws, were double-blind tested. One got it, one didn't, and they call you back afterwards and they give it to the people who got the placebo. I think that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and that's what happened with me. That's why I didn't take it at the dental school, because I knew a week later I was being unblinded. And I got the Moderna.
Did you hear the results out of Israel this morning about the efficacy of the Pfizer? Yeah, it's huge.
Pfizer, yeah, and the Moderna, they were both around 94%.
That's just amazing. We will, if we can just make enough of this stuff, we will be back to normal.
I agree with you.
Hey, Doc, thank you so much. Go Browns. I love talking to Cleveland people. 1-800-520-1234. I just don't know if I have anyone because Dwayne broke the call screener. Sandra in Florida. How are you, Sandra?
Hey, good.
Good to have you.
I'm out of Tampa, Florida. I've been listening to your show, and I specifically wanted to talk about the people who've had COVID and getting a COVID shot.
Okay.
I had COVID in July. And when the option for healthcare workers, I'm a nurse practitioner, came out, I opted to get it. And I had talked to infectious disease doctors prior to that, and they recommended people with COVID go ahead and get the shots, because getting the COVID does not guarantee that you will have protection from getting it again. But getting the COVID shot gives you, as I've heard, a couple of years immunity.
Well, so, that is good information. I did not know the answer to that, because I believe a lot of it depends upon the intensity of the illness that you receive, correct? And if you haven't produced enough antibodies, you're not going to have the same level of immunity. But again, here I'm off. I'm talking about stuff I don't know anything about. I will look for a study, but you talked to an infectious disease doctor about that?
Yes. I've worked with a couple of infectious disease doctors and asked them ahead of time, what's their advice? And they absolutely told me to get the shot. And I'm at least 4 weeks out from getting the Pfizer, and I feel great. And I feel, that I'm being pretty much covered. But just for someone who had it to not get the shot, I don't think that's fair. That's like isolating people because they've had it, and that's like definitely not right.
Oh, good point of view. I hadn't thought of that. Sandra, thank you. 1-800-520-1234. Mark is calling from where? Cleveland, another Browns fan. Hey, Mark.
Back in SARS 1, I remember Dr. Fauci saying that if you are not symptomatic, you cannot pass this on. And he repeated that back in March or April.
And he was wrong about COVID. I remember when he said that. I know that he corrected himself, and scientists do that. One of the reasons I respect Dr. Fauci is that information changes his point of view, and science changes his recommendation. And I believe that we all ought to be guided by new information, and simply, like, it's every other thing in life. We learn the longer that we study. The more that you study, the more that you learn. And if you don't change your opinion based upon new information, what's that make you, Mark?
Well, I'm happy to change. Well,
a Steelers fan. That's what it makes you, Mark. If you do not change your point of view based upon new information, you go into that dread category of Steelers fan. Thank you, my friend. 1-800-520-1234. Patrick, how are you, Patrick?
The Wall Street Journal just had an article this morning saying the WHO claims do not let pregnant women take the vaccine. I would never let my 8-year-old daughter take this vaccine.
Well, it's not recommended for children.
It's 99.8%.
Wait, that's not. But that's a false choice. Children are not supposed to get the vaccine.
Okay, I'm saying my pregnant niece should.
Well, look, I'm looking for the article you're talking about. I'm not finding anything about that. I will look for it to see if the Wall Street Journal has anything. But I've got Wall Street Journal search COVID and pregnancy, and happy to read it if it's there, and I believe in information. I will keep looking for it. Teresa in Cyprus. Hi, Teresa. It's now upside down, Dwayne. The call screener is now upside down. Just so that people know what I'm dealing with here. Hi, Teresa.
I'm standing on my head, so
oh, no wonder I can't see. Okay.
See, there you go. So they always tell you not to take any flu shot if you have egg allergies. What about this one?
Well, again, go look it up. Go look. I have not heard that, and I do not purport to know the answer to that. I know that almost everybody out there should get the COVID vaccine if they're an adult. Almost everybody. And if you have an underlying condition that makes you worry about it, call your doctor. Don't call a talk show. Don't go on the internet. Go call your doctor. I got time for one more. Joe in Detroit. Go ahead, Joe.
Hello.
Yeah, you're on.
I'm Catholic, and in our bulletin it said that the English vaccine was made with aborted.
I don't know if that's true, but in the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops has ruled that there is no moral issue between the Pfizer and Moderna. It's not something you have to worry about. Thank you, buddy. There are some people who are worried that some vaccines are developed using fetal tissue stem cells. That is not the case with Moderna and Pfizer. There is no moral nexus there. ReliefFactor.com. ReliefFactor.com. I tell you about it every day. I'm feeling so much better today than I did the rest of this week. And it's because my head cold's going away. And I'm going to be able to go back out on the trails. And I won't worry about minor aches and pains because I take Relief Factor. Even if I do the hill, the big hill, the killer hill, it will not hurt me because I take my Relief Factor. I carry curcumin, resveratrol, and omega, as you should every day. $19.95 gets you started. Join the tens of thousands of people who take it every single morning. I take it in the first hour. I remind you hours 2 and 3. Do not leave home without it. ReliefFactor.com. One more segment of the Hugh Hewitt Show. Come right back, America. More of your phone calls at 1-800-520-1234.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by No Safe Spaces.
This is Albert Mohler for Townhall.com. The American experiment is founded upon a presupposition, a prior commitment to an ordered liberty, an established order. That means policies. It means a covenant. In our case, it means a constitution. As of right now, the U.S. Constitution is the longest surviving written constitution in human history. It's a remarkable document. All of that came to the fore in violent events that interrupted the joint session of Congress to count the votes of the Electoral College. At the end of the day, our constitutional order proved itself once again resilient. But that doesn't take away any of the tragedy and the horror of what took place. It was an enormous stress test on ordered liberty, a stress test brought on by the President of the United States.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
It's an opportunity for the right, the left, conservatives, liberals, all Americans to repudiate political violence and reaffirm, once again, our commitment to ordered liberty. It's the American way. I'm Albert Mohler.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Farrakhan lives in a mansion. Sharpton We know he made a boatload of money because he was $5 million light in taxes, according to the New York Times at one point. For you to get $5 million light in taxes, you have to make a boatload of money. How is it that America is intrinsically, foundationally, endemically, structurally, institutionally racist, but these guys get a pass? But I'm the guy the man's going to come after when the man gets mad. Really? And again, according to Van Jones, this is all about a white lash because of a changing country, right?
I mean, we've talked about everything but race tonight. We've talked about income. We've talked about class. We've talked about region. We haven't talked about race. This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes. And Donald Trump has a responsibility tonight to come out and reassure people that he is going to be the president of all the people who he insulted and offended.
So it's a white lash on the part of insecure, scared white people because of a changing America that demographically is changing. Well, America has changed demographically from 2016 to 2020. So wouldn't Donald Trump therefore get a higher percentage of this paranoid white male vote instead of a smaller percentage? He's down 4 percentage points among white males compared to 2016. Is this thing on? I thought it was a white lash against white people afraid of the change in the country. The country is still changing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First.
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt arguing with you for the last time today. Go out and get the vaccine as soon as you can. It is rolling out in greater numbers. It is a great thing. The efficacy in the new study out of Israel this morning proves it works. It will prevent you from getting sick. It will prevent you from becoming a vector for the disease. There is no good argument not to, unless your doctor identifies specifically to you some underlying condition. Peter in Georgia. Hi, Peter.
Good morning, Hugh. You know, I just need to weigh in as a Catholic. I've been following the U.S. Conference of Bishops, and both of these have some connection with abortion, with using a stealth.
No, they don't. Peter, no, they do not. No, they do not. That is not the teaching of the church. I'm not going to let you go forward. That is not true. These vaccines have been ruled to be completely efficacious, and it is moral for a Catholic to take them. I'm not going to let you put out this information. Irish Mike. Hi, Mike. No, I can't read it now. It's still upside down. Go ahead, Irish Mike in Detroit. Adam's telling me the names.
Hey, Hugh, I enjoyed that Celtic bumper music. That was excellent lead-in. Hey, I'm a healthy 62-year-old, and I was all prepared to take the vaccine, but then Merck comes out recommending not taking the vaccine, and so that makes it confusing.
What? Who?
That's confusing.
Wait, Mike. Who came out?
Merck, the drug producer, Merck. Merck comes out. Merck published, don't take the vaccine.
They did not. No, they didn't. No, they did not. I don't know where you read that. That is not true. Merck did not say that.
Well, you can Google it, and you're going to see that Merck said that the survival rate.
No, I am looking at right now in a major setback. It stopped developing its COVID-19 vaccine because their COVID-19 vaccine did not work. That's different from saying don't take the vaccines which are approved. Do you understand that, Mike?
I will revisit it, but one other...
It's sitting right in front of me. Let me read it to you. Merck said Monday it will stop developing both of the current formulations of the COVID-19 vaccines the company was working on, citing inadequate immune response to the shots. So what you did, I'm not mad at you, Mike. I want to use you as an illustration. Mike just got on a public platform and mistakenly advised people that a major drug company said, don't take the vaccine. That's why, America, listen to people who do their work. Don't go with anecdotal evidence because it's evidence often that's wrong. Bob in New Mexico.
Good morning, Hugh. How are you?
Good. How are you, Bob?
I am good. Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to thank you for having Senator Rubio on earlier this morning. I really appreciate his stance on pro-life and what he's doing. But I had a question about the impeachment trial that he mentioned also. I totally agree with his comment about it being stupid. Why are we trying to impeach somebody that's out of office? But my question is, this whole thing, what is it going to cost us taxpayers as far as all these proceedings and everything going on with this?
Well, you know, the real answer to that is nothing, because the cost of running the Senate is a sunk cost. The Senate runs regardless of whatever it's doing. And so there is no additional cost. It is an opportunity cost in that they are not doing other work. And therefore, if they were going to pass COVID relief that was going to get to some businesses and save it, those businesses won't be saved because the Democrats are being stupid.
Right.
All right, there you go, my friend. I'm going to get one more in. Kathy in Tennessee. How are you, Kathy?
Hi, Hugh. How are you? I've been listening for a short while.
Well, thank you.
So the first thing is, my thing is, people don't need to forget about their fears. You know, do not let fear drive what you choose to do. You need, like you always say, you need to talk to the doctor. You need to see if this shot is right for you. That being said, for the people that are wondering about the COVID shot, if they've already had COVID, should they get the shot? Absolutely, yes. The only time that you're really going to have more of a reaction if you've already had COVID is if you get the shot too soon. So like the nurse practitioner that was on a little while ago said she had COVID last July and she just got the shot. She didn't have that many side effects. I did have a friend that got the shot and she had COVID 6 weeks before and she had a lot of side effects just because she still had those antibodies really built up in her system.
Now, Kathy, are you a doctor or a medical professional?
I work in a medical practice. I do.
All right. So my question is, Dwayne had it 2 weeks ago, so the advice your office would be giving is that he not get it until it's sufficient amount of time has passed until the antibody has gone down?
The advice that the head nurse at my practice, because I am not a nurse, the advice that the head nurse at my practice said that she would give to anyone because it happened to her is that she would go and get an antibody test first, the blood test, to see if she still had the antibodies, and then she would at least wait 2 to 3 months before she got the shot.
All right, thank you. I am going to double check that, and I appreciate your call in and keep listening to the show. I want to thank Ben and Harley and Adam today. Dwayne is still messing up my screen upside down. He can't fix it, but he's still typing Marco Rubio, so I have to thank him too. Hey, everybody, I'll be back tomorrow. Do not miss the next Hugh Hewitt Show. I enjoy watching Dwayne try to fix this.